Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Hokage Naruto goes to study in Hogwarts. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Corruptmonk and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. A New Home. An 18-year-old Harry Potter sighed as he stared off into the unknown. He was currently holed up inside Potter Manor after the wizarding world decided a year ago that he was the second coming of Voldemort after he killed the snake-faced bugger. As usual, the wizarding public took the news without question like the sheep that they were. It would have been inconsequential since he didn't really care what the wizarding world thought about him, but what made the declaration heartbreaking was his friend's reaction to the news. Hermione and Ron immediately sided with the government and distanced themselves away from him. The Weasleys informed him that he was no longer welcome and should never grace their doorstep again. The only exception was the Weasley twins who didn't believe that he was the next Dark Lord that the wizarding world portrayed him to be. The prankster duo kept him updated of any news concerning him so he would be prepared in case things hit the fan. Harry smiled grimly when his thoughts strayed to the actions of the ministry after declaring that he was a Dark Lord. Minister Scrimgeour decided that he wasn't fit to be a Potter since he was going dark, so the former or now minister declared that all of his assets would be confiscated and added to the ministry coffers. Thankfully, the goblins were on his side and informed him immediately of this plan and taking stringent measures to protect him and his wealth. Speaking of wealth, Harry found out right there and then that he was a very wealthy young man. Having no idea as to what his family name entailed, the goblins painstakingly gave him in-depth information of the Potters' standing in the wizarding world, their abundant wealth, and of course, his lineage. He found out that the Potters were a direct descendant of Godric Gryffindor with him as the only surviving member of the Potter Gryffindor family. Not only that, because of his riddles defeat under his hands, he was granted right of conquest to the Slytherin fortune added to his portfolio. Thankfully, Voldemort was unaware of his family's standing so the Slytherin vault and assets remained untouched. Putting Harry on the pedestal of being the richest wizard in the British wizarding world, not that he cared to be honest since he lived most of his life in poverty, he didn't crave for anything material unless he really needed it. In order to protect his inheritance, Harry made use of the blood lock service that the goblins provided, making sure that only he and anyone of his bloodline could open the vaults. All his properties were placed under Fidelius' charm with him as the sole secret keeper, making all of them inaccessible to anyone greedy enough to attempt confiscation or theft. With his inheritance properly protected, Harry started living in Potter Manor, also under Fidelius' charm, as well as other family protections to safeguard his person. Potter Manor was a welcome haven for Harry to get away from the sheep of the wizarding world. The mansion-like abode was maintained by a dozen house elves who practically threw a party upon his return. It was there that Harry started to make a life for himself and considered it his second chance at life. Making use of the vast library of the Potter family, Harry decided to properly train his magic since he didn't make the effort to really learn about it while in Hogwarts. He was somewhat ashamed of himself in downplaying his abilities to be accepted by his friends. He instinctively knew before that he needed to dumb himself down in order to make friends, especially with Hermione who wouldn't want anyone to shine above her knowledge, and Ron, whose studying habits left much to be desired unless it was food or Quidditch. A year of stay in Potter Manor, or more specifically, the Potter Library, was an eye-opener. He started relearning everything in the Hogwarts curriculum and found himself quite talented in magic since there weren't any need to dumb himself down or to distract himself from properly learning anything he could. He found that he was quite talented in transfiguration, charms, and potions, thought the latter wasn't on the level of being a master, but he had no problems brewing the most complication potion available. He couldn't make new recipes to save his life, but brewing existing potions was easy for him without Snape breathing down his neck. He also started working on other branches of magic that he found a fancy in, like wandless magic. He wasn't a master, but he could cast spells from 1st to 5th year without a wand successfully. Anything above that would either blow up on his face or fail miserably. He chalked it up to inexperience and promised himself to study harder. Harry also discovered that he liked ancient runes, which eventually led him to branch out to include warding to his study routine. He could cast the basic wards, and the most complicated ones would require a thorough study and practice before he could cast them successfully. Not all of his time in Potter Manor was spent studying though. The elves noticed his somewhat malnourished state and immediately placed him on a stringent potion and exercise program to bring his health back up to speed. After a year of pampering and exercise, he was able to reach his peak physical growth. His height now reached an impressive 5'10", not as tall as the tallest of his peers, but it was tall enough to no longer be called scrawny. His malnourished frame was replaced by a swimmer's build, lithe muscles giving him a well-defined look that would make quite a lot of girls swoon if they ever had the chance to see his physique without his clothes on. Harry was brought out of his musings when Fawkes appeared in all his fiery glory. The former familiar of Albus Dumbledore appeared 6 months ago while he was practice brewing Veritaserum in the potions laboratory under Potter Manor. Fawkes immediately bonded to him and established a form of communication that involved emotions and mental images. "Hi Fawkes." Harry greeted his familiar. He noticed that the phoenix had a box grasped in its talons. "What have you got there?" Fawkes didn't say anything, which was nothing new, but pushed the image of Dumbledore putting some stuff inside the box. "From Professor Dumbledore?" asked Harry towards his familiar. Fawkes trilled an affirmative before depositing the box on the table in front of him before flying over to his perch in the corner. Curious, Harry grabbed the box and opened the lid. There were some items inside, but the rolled-up parchment caught his attention. He took it out and opened it. Realizing that it was a letter from Dumbledore, he started to read. "Dear Harry. I hoped upon hope that you would never have to read this letter, but if my predictions have come to pass, then Fawkes would be delivering this to you along with the other items that I deemed that you should have. You see, Harry, I know that you would be able to vanquish Voldemort. I have no doubt in my mind that you would be able to piece together the clues I left behind that would enable you to bring down Tom Riddle and free the wizarding world from his control. However, I know how the magical world works, and I have a feeling that magical Britain would not be giving you the life you deserve. If you're reading this letter then the worst have come to pass, and this would be my last helping hand to give you a better life. There are 2 options available to you now, my boy. The first is to still continue to live your life in the wizarding world and hope that their mistaken view of you would change. If not then I offer you a change of scenery, so to speak. During my youth, I was able to discover a world much different to our own and kept it secret ever since. It is still part of our world, but it is well hidden that no outsiders could ever penetrate its barriers, forever separating it from the rest of the populace. Inside the box is a book that would explain everything about this world and would give you an idea what to expect if you decide to move there. After you finish reading the book, I enchanted this letter to reveal the rest of its content concerning some advice to help you adapt to this world better without starting from scratch. Also, included in the box are the Elder Wand and the Resurrection Stone. I think you already know the significance of these items, and I want you to bring them with you or keep them somewhere that no one in the wizarding world would get their hands on them. The Hallows are dangerous and must be kept away from both light and dark. I trust no one in their use but you. If my prediction proved right then you are the Hallows master and they would serve you well. I will end the first part of this letter here and let you browse through the rest of the items in the box. When you're ready, hold this letter again after reading the book if you decide to move to your new home. Its content will magically change to the second letter. With love and prayer to your success. Albus. Harry blinked and couldn't help but let out a chuckle. Albus Dumbledore was really the most intelligent of wizards of his time. Not only was the old coot able to predict what would happen, it heartened Harry that the wizard would go to lengths to provide him a good life. He knew that he was groomed by the wizard to take down Voldemort and he couldn't blame the man of his manipulation. It was the decision of a desperate man, after all. Curious, he placed the letter on the table and checked the other items in the box. He saw the Elder Wand and couldn't help but marvel at its beauty. He took it out of the box and when his hand made contact, he could feel a powerful surge of magic flow through his veins. He could feel something snap inside his soul and the power he felt upon holding the most powerful hand on earth. He knew right there and then that the Elder Wand have granted him its allegiance. Sighing, he waved the Elder Wand and conjured a wand holsters for it. He marveled at how easy it was to manipulate his magic through the wand. It would seem that the Elder Wand amplifies any spell cast through it, making it better compared to the rest. He added the usual enchantments, similar to what he did with the holster he wore on his right arm that held his Holly and Phoenix Feather Wand. He strapped it on his left arm and placed his new wand inside. Flicking his left hand, the Elder Wand appeared in his grasp before willing it to return to its new home. Satisfied, he moved to the next item. He saw the cracked Resurrection Stone, but laid it beside the letter since he would never put the spirits of the dead in agony. Calling the spirits to the physical plane through the power of the stone would put them in pain, so he vowed to avoid doing so at all cost. He decided to come up with a way to protect the stone later since he wasn't in a hurry. The next item he found was a shrunken trunk. He lifted it out and felt the enchantment on it. He placed it on the floor and brought out his Holly wand and reversed the shrinking charm it was placed under. Opening the now enlarged trunk, he saw that it was filled with various books on magic. He vowed to read them later since he knew that Dumbledore would never send him mundane books. Closing the trunk, he pulled out the last item inside the box, a book. Harry noticed that it was a thick book in brown leather, the title The Elemental Nations by Albus Dumbledore on its face. Curious, he opened it and started reading. Harry was amazed upon reading the book that Dumbledore advised him to read. It would seem that Dumbledore found an ancient reference to a doorway hidden deep inside the Himalayan mountains. The doorway was a conduit to a dimension parallel to his own. A completely different world working on a whole new set of rules. According to Dumbledore's study of the elemental nations, instead of magical beings, this new world was governed by individuals known as shinobis. Unlike the shinobis portrayed in movies, these shinobis were powerful in their own right, able to use a unique energy known as chakra to accomplish various feats, from elemental manipulation to physical manifestation. It was astounding, to say the least. The book almost mentioned that civilians also lived in this world, and shinobis acted as paid mercenaries to accomplish certain missions. Unlike muggles and magical, shinobis didn't bother to hide their abilities, and the civilians have no problems with it. Also, the elemental nations uses a dialect similar to Japanese with some slight difference. Thankfully, Dumbledore was able to craft a translation spell that would allow him to understand and converse in their native dialect without worries. Excited at the potential that this world offered as a home, Harry giddily finished the book and absorbed all the information it contained. It made him think of what he was going to do in this world if he ever decided to move there. For starters, he could be a civilian and live the rest of his natural life in peace. He could also become a shinobi if he ever wanted to, since the book also detailed some information on what a shinobi was supposed to have in terms of physical abilities to be successful in the trade. After perusing this section of the book, Harry noticed that he needed to be physically fit as well as gaining access to chakra if he ever wanted to be one. He knew that he could duplicate the feat using magic since it was much superior to what chakra could do. Harry also discovered that the books inside the Shrunken Trunk were on different topics that described the shinobi lifestyle. From their training program to the various abilities that chakra could perform in and out of the body. How Dumbledore got his hands on these books, Harry would never know. Since he was done with the first book, Harry decided to go through the rest before making up his mind. It was a few months after his 19th birthday that Harry decided to move to the elemental nations to start a new life. The decision was sparked by the news that the twins sent him that there was sizable reward for his capture. Considering that he was safely inside his Fidelius protected home, it would seem that the minister was desperate to get his hands on him for reasons unknown. Determined to start anew, Harry lifted Dumbledore's letter and saw it change to reveal another set of instructions for him to follow. Dear Harry. If you read this part of the letter then you have decided for a change of scenery. Such is the case, there are a few things that you needed to do as preparation to make sure that your transition to your new home would go smoothly. For starters, you can still use magic in this world, so you need not worry about losing your hard-earned abilities and knowledge. You also need not worry about hiding as a civilian, since the few people that I have revealed magic to have welcomed it without question. Now let's proceed with the preparations. First, you need to contact Gringotts. Money in the elemental nations is vastly different to our own. Instead of the usual galleons, sickles, and nuts. The elemental countries only accepts a unique currency called ryo. If you want to have money then you need to bring gold bars with you to be converted to the local currency. When I showed a friend of mine in the elemental nations a galleon and had it appraised, I was shocked to discover that a galleon to ryo is equivalent to a month's wage. Bring some gold bars with you and have it exchanged in a local bank. You won't be disappointed. Second, I suggest that you bring a house elf with you. Humans need to go through the doorway in order to safely enter the elemental nations. However, I noticed that house elves were capable of traversing dimension as long as they are bonded to their master. I accidentally called my house elf, Dippy, to me and she appeared without problems. A house elf would give you access to both worlds, so to speak, so if you need anything in our world, then you can just have a house elf get it. Third, pack only the basic essentials since you can easily buy the necessities when you get there. Last, but certainly not the least, I want you to immediately go to Konoha upon entering the elemental nations. Fox can get you there without problems since he knows where it is. Upon arriving to Konoha, register yourself to the gate guards, Chuninins if I remember them correctly, and ask them to escort you to the hokage. You should be introduced to someone by the name of Sarutobi Hiruzen since he was the hokage at that time. Tell him my name and he will know. If you decide to be a shinobi then let Sarutobi know since he can help you with tutors to achieve your goal. I hope this helps, my boy, and good luck on your new adventure. Albus. Harry appeared in a burst of flame with Fox on his shoulder. He was currently wearing a muggle attire of jeans and blue shirt and an overcoat with sleeves up to his wrist to hide both of his wands. He found himself on a road a few miles outside Konoha. Adjusting his backpack to make it more comfortable for traveling, he followed the road while whistling a merry tune with Fox trilling in accompaniment. It took an hour for him to arrive at the gates of Konoha alone since Fox decided to fly around and check out the sights before meeting with him later. He wasn't in a hurry and he enjoyed the walk since it had been quite some time since he enjoyed the sight of nature. When he got to the gate, he was stopped by a pair of individuals that Harry immediately recognized as shinobis. Thankfully, Albus had the foresight to include moving pictures of shinobis in his book to recognize them easily on sight. "Halt," said one of the shinobi guards. "Who are you and what brings you to Konoha?" Harry immediately activated the translation spell he read from Dumbledore's book. "My name is Harry Potter and I come seeking the counsel of the Hokage for the possibility of living in your beautiful village," said Harry as a form of greeting. "Harry Potter." The other guard tried enunciating his name, making Harry grimace at how his name was getting mangled by their language. Just call me Harry for now," he said with a smile, though he inwardly sighed in relief when the guards nodded in agreement since both of them were having problems with his family name. "Alright, just sign your name on the log and your purpose of visit before you're escorted to the Hokage," said guard while pointing at an open scroll on the table beside the gate. Harry nodded and took the brush while mentally thanking whatever deities were out there for being an experienced painter, since pens were not being used here in this world. Dipping it in ink from the bottle beside the scroll, he immediately wrote his name and the purpose of his visit. One of the guards inspected his work before nodding. A masked shinobi appeared and escorted him to the Hokage Tower. It was a 30-minute walk since he was a civilian, and Harry could feel the anxiety of his escort for being slow. He could easily tell the Anbu that he could apparate to get there faster, but he decided to keep his magic hidden for now. During their walk to the tower, Harry reviewed the information he read from the book about the customs of the elemental nation, so he wouldn't accidentally insult the locals. He likened their custom to Japanese since it was very similar. When they got to the tower, Harry immediately addressed his escort. "Thank you for escorting me, Shinobi-san," Harry said with a bow, surprising his guard who nodded before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. The wizard chalked it up to shinobi skills and vowed to research it later. After talking to the secretary, Harry had to wait since the Hokage was in an appointment. It was an hour later that the secretary ushered him to the office where an old man wearing a weird hat was busy reading various documents on his table. "Thank you for having time to see me, Hokage-sama," said Harry with a bow. "No problem. May I know your name and your purpose of coming here to Konoha?" asked the Hokage with a smile. "My name is Harry Potter, though I think we need to come up with a new name since not many in your world could enunciate it properly. Well, before we go into that, I was instructed to come here by my master to see Sarutobi Hiruzen." The Hokage nodded with a smile, though there was a curious gleam in his eyes when he mentioned your world before beckoning for Harry to sit. "I am Sarutobi Hiruzen and I am the Hokage." "So who is this master of yours?" he inquired curiously. "His name is Albus Dumbledore," Harry replied immediately. Sarutobi's face turned to shock before a smile made his way to his face. "Oh. Albus-san. I remember him. How is he?" Harry gave the Hokage a sad look. "He died a few years ago." Sarutobi's face mirrored Harry. "I see. I met him during my youth a few weeks after I became the Hokage and told me about his circumstances and interviewed me concerning the elemental nations, since he is not from this world. I take it you're magical then?" "Yes I am," Harry said with a nod. "He was the head of the magic school I attended before I graduated." "I see. So, Harry grimaced when his name was being mangled again, which Sarutobi noticed. "What brings you here?" Deciding to go with the truth since he really wanted to start a new life here, Harry explained everything to the aged leader about his circumstances, starting from his life with the Dursleys, the war with Voldemort, his studies at Hogwarts, the Horcrux hunt, and his life in Wizarding Britain after the fall of the Dark Lord. The Hokage's face was a cacophony of emotions as he went through his tale before ending in a look of understanding which made Harry inwardly sigh in relief. "Quite a life you went through, my boy, and I can see in your eyes the glint of a warrior. You have gone through much and I can safely say that you became a great person because of it. I have no problems letting you live in Konoha and welcome you with open arms. Would it be safe to say that Albus already taught you everything he knows about this world?" Sarutobi asked while pulling out a bunch of papers from his drawer. "Yes. He left me a bunch of books to read so I won't have any problems living here. In fact, I memorized all of them," Harry said with a grin which was immediately mimicked by the aged leader. "But good. I would just like to say that you don't need to hide your abilities here since Albus-san informed me that your magical world tends to hide from civilians. You don't have to fear that separation here considering shinobis can do almost the same thing you do with chakra. Are you going to be a civilian or are you interested in becoming a shinobi? Your abilities would be of great help to the village." "To be honest, I'm still not sure. I need to acquaint myself with chakra and shinobis in general, since Professor Dumbledore's books didn't really go into detail, only a general summary. I can start off as a civilian then decide later if that's alright." "I have no problem with that. In fact, I have an idea that would be of great benefit to you during your stay here in Konoha and to get your abilities recognized by the village. But first, you need to fill up these forms before we can proceed," said the Hokage while pushing a stack of papers to Harry who eyed it with trepidation. "That's a lot of paper." Yes, I know. Sarutobi said smugly. Harry raised an eyebrow and flicked out his holly wand, which made Sarutobi eye it with interest. Grabbing the first form at the top of the stack, he tapped it with his wand and watched the information being filled out on its designated place. Sarutobi watched all this in fascination, as well as some jealousy. It was Harry's turn to give the aged leader a smug look. Sarutobi grabbed the document and saw the information there and raised an eyebrow. I see that you decided to change your name, Mahorahari. He asked curiously. Hari nodded with a smile. Yes, since my name has been mangled many times by your guards, I thought up a new name for myself since I am starting a new life here. Mahor instead of Potter since Maho is the equivalent of magic in your language. Hari is a play of my real name. Explained Hari with a grin. I see. Sarutobi said with a nod while checking out the information on the documents. Considering that you have a unique ability that would contribute much to the village, what is your reaction if I suggest that you start a clan here in Konoha? A clan? Hari asked curiously. Yes. You see, in this village, there are people who have unique abilities that we call Kekkei Genkai or bloodline limit, and those who have are given a clan status. For example, the Nara clan has the ability to use shadow techniques, the Aburam clan, for their use of bugs in battle, and so on. From what Albus told me, magic can be passed on to your children, so it would be qualified as a Kekkei Genkai. Such is the case. It would be prudent for you to start your own clan here in Konoha and the privileges it can give you. Interesting. Said Hari. What privileges does being clan have? For starters, all information concerning your abilities is a secret to the rest of the populace. In other words, no one can force you to reveal them if you don't want to. Second, a clan head have a seat in our government as long as you have a thorough knowledge of our laws. Also, as a clan, you are given a plot of land where you can start your own family and is considered private grounds that no one can enter without your explicit permission. I can provide you with books detailing the responsibilities of a clan head if you wish to push through with this idea. Hari thought about it for a few seconds before nodding his head in agreement. I agree with your suggestion, Hokage-sama. In fact, that would make my life in the village a whole lot easier. Would it be safe to say that being a clan requires me to contribute to the village as a whole? You assume correctly, Mahora-san. Said Sarutobi with a smile, surprising Hari at aged man's respect towards him, as well as the use of his new family name. It is up to you in regards to what you can contribute to the village. I don't think I can give much in terms of magic, since I can safely say that I am the only one here that can use magic. I can offer to teach those who display the ability if one ever turns up. I can also make some potions to be used by the public, but it needs to be regulated since some of them are quite dangerous. Potions? Sarutobi asked curiously. Hari nodded. He might as well as show the Hokage what he was capable of. He studied Sarutobi for a bit, deciding what potion to use, until an idea flitted through his head. Grinning, he pulled out a shrunken trunk from his backpack and set it on the floor. He tapped it with his wand to reverse the enchantment, making the Hokage's eyes widen at the display of magic in front of him. Rummaging around the various vials inside the trunk, he pulled out 2 potions. These 2 potions were unique and were considered lost to the wizarding world. In fact, the recipes of these potions were only found in the Potter Library, which was 10 times larger than those found at Hogwarts. Potions are very common element in the wizarding world, Hokage-sama. There is practically a potion for every scenario ranging from healing to poison. These 2 potions are unique to Mayada the Potter clan, or if you want to be technical, the Mahor clan. The recipes for these 2 are considered lost and only found in my library. Said Hari with a grin as he placed the potions on the Hokage's desk. Sarutobi studied the 2 potion vials in front of him. One was pure white while the other was blue. What do these potions do, Hari? He asked curiously. Hari smiled at the way the old man addressed him, not as a subordinate, but as a friend. He made the right decision in showing these potions to him. These 2 potions work together. The white potion is called an age reversal potion. The amount of potion in that vial is enough to de-age a person 10 years of his life. The blue potion is called a permanence potion, and any potion drank before it would make the effect permanent. For example, if you drink the white potion followed by the blue potion, you will be de-aged 10 years permanently. However, there is a limit. The age reversal potion may only be administered twice until it would become poisonous to the human body. And not all effects are applicable to the permanence potion. Why don't you give them a try, Hokage-sama? I'm sure you like the results. Sarutobi looked at Hari with a mix of both curiosity and excitement before a frown marred his face. I hope you understand that I couldn't drink these potions, Hari. I trust you, but as a shinobi, I am automatically wary of anything. Hari nodded, agreeing with the Hokage's admission since he was in the same shoe. Are you familiar with a wizard's oath, Hokage-sama? Yes. Albus explained to me and even used that once when I asked him to promise me not to divulge any information of the elemental nations to those he doesn't trust. Harry nodded before raising his holy wand. I, Harry James Potter, now known as Mahora Hari, swear on my life and magic that these potions would never hurt or cause negative effects to one hears in Sarutobi when drank. So I say, so mote it be. He intoned, making him glow a bit, signifying the activation of the oath. He raised his wand and cast a light spell which flooded the room. As you can see, I still have my magic, so I have not lied to you that these 2 potions will not be causing you any harm. He said before cancelling the spell. Sarutobi nodded and drank the white potion first. The effect was instantaneous, some of the wrinkles on the Hokage's face disappeared and some of his hair turned brown, though there was still a lot of white there considering his age. Amazing, I feel a bit young, well not that young, but sprier compared to before. This is astounding, Hari. So I should drink the blue potion now? After getting a nod, he immediately drank said potion, making him glow blue a bit before dying down. So I'm now 51 years old. Hari fired a spell at Sarutobi, making him glow pink. Well, 51 years, 8 months, and 11 days. He said with a smile. Before summoning another set of the 2 potions and setting it on the table. I suggest that you drink these 2 after 48 hours to de-age yourself to 41. Consider it as a gift. Sarutobi nodded with a smile before taking the potions and placing it into one of his hidden pockets. So what other potions do you have with you right now? I have the basic as well as some medical potions. Why do you ask? In order to attest to the validity of these potions, as well as strengthening your position to start a clan here in Konoha, I would invite some of the council as you administer these potions. Besides, it would be better if they can see the immediate benefits of your clan instead of just taking your word for it. I agree with you there, Hokage-sama, said Hari with a nod before mentally taking stock of the potion he had in his trunk. Let me see, I have a potion that can regrow broken or lost bones, potions that stimulate muscle growth, potions that can help heal major wounds, potions to restore blood. I also have some healing potions to cure nerve damage. Amazing. Sarutobi breathed out in surprise, crowing in delight at what these potions could do to bolster Konoha's ranks. There were quite a lot of shinobis who retired since they lost an arm or a leg during battle. If these potions work, then there would be 50 or so shinobis that could be redrafted into the ranks. If it's alright with you, I can set up a meeting with the Shinobi Council in 2 hours at the hospital where you will administer these potions to some of the patients there. I have all the time in the world, Hokage-sama, said Hari with a smile. He was happy that the demonstration would cement his position in the village and also allow him to use his talent to help people. After the Hokage sent a missive to the Shinobi Council to meet him in the hospital in 2 hours, he and Hari hammered out some of the details concerning his clan's status in the village. They decided to show Hari to an abandoned clan house that he could use as his own. Hari also gave the Hokage a briefcase containing the 30 gold bars he brought with him to be appraised and converted to Ryo in the bank. Hari laughed when Sarutobi's eyes grew as wide as saucer upon seeing the wealth that he brought with him. Since they had plenty of time to spare, Sarutobi asked Hari to give him some idea as to what he was capable of in magic. Hari's eyes gleamed when he brought out his wand, wanting to show the shinobi leader what he was really capable of. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Demonstration at its finest. After shocking the aged letter out of his sandals through various feats of magic, the Sandaime Hokage and Hari made their way to the hospital to meet with the rest of the council for his demonstration to cement his position as a valuable clan in the village. Since Hari was the one who would be administering the potions, the Hokage decided to let the newcomer review the roster of patients in the hospital and pick a few that would take advantage of his unique treatment. When they got there, Hari was immediately introduced to the shinobi side of the council, namely Nara Shikaku, Yamanaka Inoichi, Akamichi Chauza, Inyazuka Tsume, Aburam Shibi, and Hyuga Hiyashi. There were a few more that needed to be there, but the Hokage suggested that these ones would be the first since they were the most trustworthy and open to the idea of adding new clans to the village. If he could gain their support, then Hari wouldn't have to worry about his status in the village. After perusing the medical records of various patients in the hospital, Hari decided to treat all those he could since he had plenty of potions in stock and he was well versed in healing spells thanks to his studies in the Potter Library. He could replenish his supply later if need be once he was settled down. The first patient was from the Inyazuka clan named Shinji. He was scheduled for arm amputation after getting it almost blown off from a mission. When Hari entered the patient's room, he could see the sad look in the man's eyes, telling him that the man already surrendered to the fact that he wouldn't be a shinobi anymore. After a short greeting, Hari approached the patient while the rest of the council and the Hokage were standing back to observe the process. The young wizard checked the wound and couldn't help but grimace at the sight. The flesh was badly mangled and he could see that the wound was seriously infected that no muggle treatment could cure. From the looks of it and the severity of the wound, this needs to be amputated, am I correct? Hari asked the patient who gave him a resigned nod. Well, not if I can help it. Fox. Everyone was surprised when a beautiful bird appeared in the room in a flash of fire. Seeing their scared and odd looks, Hari decided to introduce his familiar. Everyone, I would like you to meet my familiar, Fox. He is a phoenix and will be helping me in treating Shinji-san here. Phoenixes have the power to heal, both physical and emotional. His song can get rid of negative emotions, and their tears can heal any wounds and poison. Said Hari to everyone who was looking at the bird in awe. He looked at Fox. Fox, would you please heal the man's arm? Fox trilled an affirmative before flying down beside the patient. He cocked his head to the side and dropped a few of his healing tears on the many wounds on the man's arm. Right before their eyes, the various wounds healed and closed, leaving only a faint scar. Everyone was amazed at what they saw and was giving the red avian a look of profound respect. Fox preened at the attention, making Hari smile at his familiar. Now, I am not familiar with a spell that would heal broken bones, but I can learn that if I need to. However, I will be giving you a potion called Skull Grow which can regrow any bones. But first, I need to remove the bone from your arm before it can be regrown. Are you going to operate on him, Mahora Dono? Asked Sum, who was quite happy that his clan member won't be retiring anytime soon. The respectful tone in her voice made everyone look at her in astonishment. Sum doesn't give respect that easily, and it seemed that this young man just gained hers. Sorry, Sum-sama. I am not a surgeon, but I have an alternative. Harry flicked his left hand, bring out the Elder Wand. Since he wasn't that good with healing spells, he needed the power of the Elder Wand to assist him and making his spell potent enough to work. He pointed the wand at Shinji's arm and uttered the bone-removing spell. Gamura Abio. The beam of white light hit Shinji's arm, vanishing the broken bones with ease. The arm simply flopped on the bed, like jelly. Everyone was looking at it in disbelief. Now, I vanished the bones and you didn't feel any pain since I didn't tamper with the nerves. Now, he pulled out a vial containing the green Skull Grow and held it out to the man. That is going to taste very bad, so please drink it all down in one go. Hari instructed. Shinji shakily took the potion with his good arm and looked at everyone with fear in his eyes. Seeing the Hokage's nod of encouragement, he downed the potion in one go, almost throwing it up because of the taste. Hari immediately gave him a glass of water which he conjured with his wand and gave it to the man with an amused smile on his face. Shinji took it and gulped it down, washing the horrid taste from his mouth. I know how you feel. Skull Grow doesn't really taste that good. Hari said with a shiver, remembering the many times Madame Pomfrey had him drink it. That was the most horrid thing I ever tasted in my entire life. Shinji said with a shiver of disgust. Why is my arm tingling and suddenly becoming painful? It means that the potion is working and in a matter of 4 hours, your arm will be good as new. Here, drink this. Hari handed him another potion vial which Shinji eyed in fear. Don't be such a baby. This is a pain relief potion and it tastes a whole lot better than Skull Grow. Shinji sighed and took the potion before gulping it down. He made a face. Tastes weird, but it's better than the first one. Hey. It's not painful anymore. He declared in amazement. Told you, Hari said smugly. That potion will last until your arm is regrown. I will come back in 4 hours to check on you, alright. Shinji nodded before giving him a respectful bow. Thank you, Mahora-sama. I am forever in your debt. You saved my shinobi career. Hari patted the man on the shoulder and smiled. No need to thank me. I know how it feels to have your dream taken away from you. I'm just happy that I could help and keep that dream alive. Everyone exited Shinji's room and Hari could see the amazed look on the Hokage in the council's face. Hari spent the next hour going through different patients and healing them using his potions, though there were a few that he had to resort to spells since he didn't have the right potion in stock. He vowed to have one of his elves bring him medical books from the Potter Library to read through if he was going to be helping out in the hospital during his free time. When he was finished with the last patient and was about to go to the Hokage's office to finalize his status as a clan head, an emergency patient came in. The head doctor who was present when Hari healed all the patients came running up to them. Hokage-sama, Mahora-sama, we have a patient that is in need of immediate treatment. Mahora-sama, we need your help. Our abilities won't be able to help him. The head doctor begged. Hari immediately nodded to the doctor who led them to an emergency room, followed closely by the Hokage and the rest of the Shinobi Council. Hari saw the patient and almost threw up at what he saw. A shinobi was dying from various major wounds. His stomach was cut open and both of his arms were cut off. He was bleeding like hell. Hari was no professional healer, but he knew what he could do to help the man. Fox! Shouted Hari. The phoenix knew what his master wanted, so he immediately flew from Hari's shoulder and down to the patient before crying into the man's many wounds, healing it all up. When Fox was done with the wounds, Hari immediately fired a salvo of diagnostic spells before unleashing a round of healing spells at the man. The result of the first spell was staggering. The man was suffering from blood loss, broken bones, depleted life force, and the loss of 2 arms and a few concussions here and there. Thankfully, Fox was able to heal the major wounds. Not wasting any time, he commanded the nurses in attendance to prop the man's head so he could administer the potions needed. After a nod from the hokage and the head doctor, the nurses did as ordered. Hari first fed the man a pain relief potion to help the man relax. When that was done, he gave the man 2 doses of blood replenishing potions to counteract the blood loss. After firing another round of diagnostic spell to check the man's status, he took out 2 vials of Skull Grow and a vial of muscle regrowth potion before force feeding it to the man. He was thankful that the patient was unconscious or he would have thrown up the whole thing out due to the taste. Another spell later determined that the potions were working and the man's condition was stable. He sighed in relief before slumping down on an available chair as the adrenaline left his body. "Man, that was close," said Hari with a sigh before downing a pepper-up potion to replenish his lost energy. "What happened, Hari?" asked a concerned Hokage as he eyed the sleeping man. "It was a good thing that we made it in time. The man was going to die with the injuries he sustained. Blood loss, both arms cut, major wounds, internal bleeding, and various broken bones and concussion to the head. Not to mention that his life force was dwindling during treatment. Thankfully, Fox was able to heal a majority of the man's wounds and started the regeneration of his energy using his tears. I also administered the correct potions to regrow his arms, muscles and all. He will be fine in 16 hours, give or take a few. I will leave some potions and instructions when he regains consciousness. When he is back to normal, he would need a week of rest before he can go back to his duties," Hari reported before handing some potions to the head doctor who took it eagerly. The Shinobi Council and the Hokage paled when Hari listed down the injuries. Nothing short of Tsunade's skills could help the man. It was lucky that Hari was around with his spells and potions or another shinobi of Konoha would have been lost. The result of this display cemented the Shinobi Council's decision in allowing the creation of the Mahora clan into Konoha. If this was what the boy was capable of in a simple demonstration, what more could the boy do? They continued to observe the boy as he instructed the doctor on the use of the potions. Hari and the Hokage stayed in the hospital for another 2 hours, treating some patients while talking about magic in general and what he could do with it. The Shinobi Council already left having already learned what they needed to know about him and his abilities. A meeting of the Konoha Council would be called in 2 days' time to discuss the creation of the Mahora clan in Konoha, which made Hari smile in happiness. Before leaving, Hari checked Shinji and saw that the bone in his arm was properly regrown. After telling the man to take it easy for a few days to let the arm heal properly, he left with the Hokage back to the office to discuss the next step of their plan, finding a home. Hari was currently standing in front of an abandoned clan house in the outskirts of the village. According to the Hokage, it hasn't been used since the Kyuubi attack, which the aged leader explained in detail. If Hari was honest with himself, he liked his soon-to-be home since it was spacious and the overall design was reminiscent to the Japanese homes he saw in the telly. "I'll take it, Hokage-sama," Hari said with a smile. "How much is this going to cost me?" The Hokage coughed and pulled out a sheet of paper from his robe and gave it a glance before handing it to the curious wizard. "The gold you brought were already appraised and converted into Ryo. That is your first statement of account under your name." Hari took the paper and almost choked when he saw the amount he had. "Damn. I haven't seen that much zeros in my entire life. Are you sure this is correct?" Hari asked incredulously, his eyes not leaving the paper. Sarutobi grinned. "Everything in that paper is correct. According to the shinobi I dispatched to handle the conversion, the manager of the bank said that the quality of your gold bars were exceptional and fetched a good price in the market. Considering how heavy they were, it fetched quite a hefty sum. Damn. To think that the gold I brought didn't make a dent from my account back home." Hari swore, making the Hokage choke. "You mean to tell me that what you brought was only a small part of your entire inheritance?" Sarutobi asked in disbelief. Hari shook his head. "Trust me, Hokage-sama. The gold I brought with me only made use of one of my 10 vaults and it only took half of it. So, how much is the house and property? I'll process the necessary papers and I can sell it to you at a discounted price considering its status. Let's say 10 million Ryo." Sarutobi offered. The original value of the property was 50 million Ryo, but considering it needed a lot of repairs, the rest of the price would be put on renovating the whole thing. Not that Hari needed the money anyway since his current account was almost in trillion. "I can live with that. So you're going to deduct it directly from my account in the bank?" asked Hari as he pocketed the account statement. "Yes. I suggest that you hire a few genin teams and a construction crew to help with the repairs. I can book you in a hotel for a month or 2 while your clan house is being constructed. Saratobi suggested with a smile but grew nervous when Hari gave him a mischievous grin. "No need, Hokage-sama. I'll take care of it," Hari declared with a grin. The Hokage gave him a disbelieving look. Hari decided to really show the man what magic can really do. "Potter elves to me." A loud pop echoed around the compound, revealing 24 house elves in all their glory. "What in the world are those?" shouted Hokage when he saw the elves. "Those are house elves, Hokage-sama. You can say that they're magical servants, so to speak. Anyway," Hari turned to the elves. "Alright guys, this place will be our new home while I'm here. As you can see it needs a lot of repairs. Hop to it boys." A shout of "Yes Master Potter, sir," echoed around the abandoned clan house before the elves started working their unique brand of magic on the abandoned home. Saratobi was shocked when he saw the wrecked house being repaired with his very eyes. He shook his head in disbelief and muttered a kai under his breath, but whatever he did didn't work since he was still seeing the same thing. The elves were repairing the clan compound piece by piece with a snap of their tiny fingers. It was amazing. Hari grinned when he saw the Hokage's stunned expression. "As you can see, the Mahora clan house will be up and running by tomorrow. All I need is the address of shops here in Konoha where I get the necessities and I'm good to go," he said cheerfully. Saratobi gave Hari a look of disbelief before shaking his head. "Nothing is ever dull around you, Hari. Welcome to Konoha, my boy." The meeting with the rest of the council was postponed for a week since the Hokage wanted the Hari to finish his home first before doing anything else. He allowed Hari to complete his work on his clan home since he was already a resident of Konoha, though his clan status would have to be decided at a later date. To be honest, Hari wasn't in a hurry as long as he was now a resident. Thanks to the elves' tireless work, the clan house was finished in one day. It went fast because the elves would just repair and do cleanup, though some of the small houses within the compound needed to be rebuilt from scratch since they were either too old or too destroyed to salvage. When everything was done, Hari ordered the elves to bring some furniture from Potter Manor as well as some in the vaults to spruce up his new abode. He made some necessary adjustments since he needed a place for magic. Hari and the elves decided to use one of the smaller houses connected to the main house by a covered walkway as a potions lab. A few reinforcement wards and spells later, it was good to go. The library had to be expanded since it was too small, and some shelves were brought in from Potter Manor before filling it up. Hari decided to create duplicates of the books to be placed inside his new library since he didn't want the original to leave the Potter estate. Speaking of library, Hari instructed the elves to bring in some books on healing magic since he wanted to work part-time in the hospital, as well as some books for enchanting since he was already thinking of a way to help his new village improve its military force, and books on battle magic just in case he would join the Konoha shinobi force in the future. Of course, the elves took it upon themselves to man the kitchen, and Hari was shooed out of its creation, though he was informed that food would have to be bought from Wizarding Britain since they don't know many recipes on the various foods served in the village, though Hari vowed to correct that soon by a simple trip to the bookstore or library. His elves were happy at the idea of learning new ways to make food which Hari found amusing. Finally, Hari spent a day adding wards to the Mahora clan compound. Considering that this was the shinobi world, he needed to make sure that the wards were up to the task of ensuring his safety while inside. For starters, he put up an intent-based ward that would repel anyone to harm anyone inside the compound and stopping them from entry. The basic weather protection and insect and animal repellent wards were up next, both wards needed because he was near training ground 44, which according to the Hokage, had a lot of wild animals who would love but nothing to feast on his flesh. He also put up a battle-based ward connected to the intent-based ward to stun anyone who had the audacity to invade his home, especially those who had the ability to get past the repel function of the ward. He strengthened the clan walls with reinforcement and durability runes for added protection. The two last precautions were necessary because he read in Dumbledore's book that the elemental nation hosts various unique abilities that would prove a threat if not properly defended against. In powering the wards, Hari was thankful that the powering runes seemed to react to the ambient chakra in the air, powering them up to optimum efficiency without having to worry about a recharge. He vowed to study the nature of chakra since it enhanced the power of his wards and maybe it could be used alongside magic for various purposes. He wasn't in a hurry since he had plenty of time to do so. Hari was nervous. He was currently standing in front of the Konoha council regarding his petition to start the Mahora clan in the village. He was already a resident, no problem there, but starting a new clan was a serious business since becoming the head of his own clan would mean that he would have a hand in the running of Konoha as part of its council. Thank you all for coming to this meeting of the Konoha Council. We are here to discuss one major topic and that is the creation of the Mahora clan here in the village," said Saratobi, causing a lot of whispers to break out in the room. The few who didn't and looked relaxed were those who have seen Hari's capabilities in the hospital a week back. Would the petitioner come forward and speak his claim? Taking it as his cue, Hari strolled forward to face the council and bowed deeply in respect. "Good morning, Honorable Council of Konoha. My name is Mihara Hari, a recent addition to your fine village. To the Hokage's suggestion, I would like to request your approval to start up my own clan in the village." "We welcome you to our village, Mihara-san," said Hamura with a smile on his face. "However, the creation of a clan requires you to possess a bloodline, as well as provide a contribution to the village in terms of both ability and economically. Are you qualified on both counts?" Hari nodded, returning the elder's smile. "If it pleases the council, I would like to explain the bloodline of my clan, as well as some demonstration to what I can contribute for Konoha as a whole." Hari waited for the council to deliberate towards his request. He didn't wait long since one of the Konoha elders gestured for him to continue with interest shining in their eyes. "As my clan name implies, my bloodline is to utilize the force known as magic or mahu to affect reality." Hari waved his hand, causing the Hokage's table to float up. Everyone looked at it in wide-eyed astonishment. "As you can see, with the use of the unique energy my bloodline possess, I can affect reality through the use of spells. What you just saw is a non-verbal spell to levitate the table." Hari waved his hand again to set the table back on the floor. Since further demonstration was required, he started conjuring various items around the room, mostly furniture commonly found in the Gryffindor common room. "That is the creation aspect of my bloodline called conjuration. As you can see, I can create anything as long as I know what the object looks like, though there are certain limitations. For example, I cannot create metals due to its unique properties." He started changing the various items in the room to other items to demonstrate his other spells. "What I did is another branch of my bloodline called transfiguration, the ability to change one object to another. Again, there are certain limitations, like I cannot change an object to a metallic property, only an imitation of it. In truth, there aren't any limitations to either conjuration or transfiguration, well, except for the tampering and creation of gold, silver, and bronze, due to their magical properties. If they discovered that he can create gold on the fly, thanks to the Elder Wand, of course, then it would destroy the economy. What they don't know won't hurt anyone, and the Hokage suggested to adding limitations to his bloodline to avoid questions that needed to be avoided." "Amazing," said one civilian council member who was giving Hari a speculative look. Hari saw it and made a mental note to avoid the man. He knew the look of greed anywhere, since his uncle Vernon tended to have that look all the time during his many dealings with his clients. "Is that all you can do, Mihara-san?" "Actually, no," said Hari before pulling out a shrunken trunk from his pocket and placing it on the table in front of him. He tapped it using a finger to reverse the charm he placed on it earlier. "What you just saw was a spell called a shrinking charm, allowing me to shrink any items to a smaller size for easy transport. All I did was cancel the spell." Hari explained before opening the trunk and pulled out various potions and placed it in full view of everyone in the room. "These are what I call potions, a unique branch of my bloodline, allowing me to utilize unique ingredients to produce an elixir of sorts to different effects." "What do these potions do?" said Shimura Danzo, who was giving Hari a speculative look. Hari couldn't place it, but he was able to sense a generous amount of curiosity from the man, though he was quite weary of him. He vowed to ask the Hokage later. "A week ago when I arrived here in Konoha, Hokage-sama asked me to demonstrate the capability of my potions. With some members of the Shinobi Council who were available to watch my demonstration on such short notice, we adjourned to the hospital and started treating the patients there using potions and some of my healing techniques." Quite a lot of people in the room showed recognition in their eyes. "Wait, you mean you were the one who healed my brother's lung problem?" asked one councilman who was giving Hari a look of respect. "Lung problem?" asked Hari in confusion before remembering the patient he treated. "Oh, you mean Yanagi Kuro who was suffering from a disease known as tuberculosis. Did I get it right?" "Correct. Kuro is my younger brother. My name is Ichigo, Yanagi Ichigo. My brother called you a miracle worker since he had suffered for 10 years with his lung problem, and you healed it in a matter of minutes that doctors tried doing for years. You have my thanks, Mihara-sama," said Ichigo with a bow of respect, causing everyone to look at the wizard in shock and amazement. "You are most welcome, Yanagi-sama. Like what I told your brother, I was more than happy to help," Hari said with a smile. "Are you going to make these wonderful potions of yours available in public, Mihara Dono?" asked Ichigo, since he knew that whatever the man had in his disposal would be a great boon to the village. "Of course, Yanagi-sama," Hari said with a nod. "Once I am settled in, I am going to open up a shop to make my potions available to the public. In fact, I am donating a batch of needed potions to the hospital and hold a seminar of sorts to teach the doctors and nurses there of their use. Konoha is my home now and I will do everything in my power to help it." In fact, I am already in negotiations with him to donate and provide some potions to various departments in the shinobi ranks to aid in their activities, for example. Hari pulled out a vial containing a clear liquid from his trunk. This is a potion called Veritaserum, or otherwise called a truth potion. 3 drops on a person's tongue would make them answer any question you ask for an hour, unless an antidote is given. However, I will be restricting the use of this potion, since it would be disastrous if the wrong person get their hands on it. Everyone nodded while giving the colorless potion a look of awe. Hari smiled at their reaction. The hokage was giving Hari a happy look, since the potion would be a great boon to the T&I department. "That is much appreciated, Mihara-san," said Danzo, a look of profound respect in his eyes. He might be a warhawk and operated a shadow organization under the bowels of Konoha, but he was nothing more than a loyal soldier to the village who would do anything in his power to protect it. This man in front of him just opened up a powerful bloodline to the aid of the village and offering a unique chance to make everyone's lives better. He was first thinking of kidnapping the man to find out the source of his abilities, but after hearing the explanation and his interaction with the Yanagi head, it was a bad idea to experiment on the metaphorical golden goose. It was better to leave the man alone and support him from afar, for the good of Konoha, of course. "I think we have seen enough of your demonstration, Mihara-san. Would you please step out for a few minutes while the Konoha Council deliberates on your request to set up a clan here in Konoha? You will be called back when a decision is reached." The hokage told Hari with a smile on his face and a mischievous glint in his eyes. Hari nodded and replaced everything back into his trunk with a wave of his hand, further astounding the council. He shrunk the trunk and placed it back on his pocket. With a bow, he exited the room, leaving an excited and astonished Konoha Council behind him. "What do you know about him, Sarutobi? I can see it in your eyes that you know something we don't," asked Hamura, eyeing his former teammate curiously. "What do you want to know?" asked Sarutobi while puffing on his pipe. "Well, where he came from would be a start, and how he came by his bloodline, and why we haven't heard of such a powerful bloodline before." Sarutobi was quiet after that question. Hari had been truthful about him regarding his plight and wanted to help the young man start a new leaf here in the leaf, no pun intended of course. If he wanted to help the boy, no man, then he needed to get the council on his side. Since honesty was crucial at this point in time, he decided to reveal what Hari told him. Besides, the boy already gave him permission to do so. "Before I tell you everything I know about him, I want to state that the information will not leave this room. It is a SS rank secret, punishable by death. Understood?" Sarutobi said seriously, emphasizing his point with a burst of kai. After getting a nod from everyone in the room, he proceeded to tell everything he knew of Mihara Hari, to the astonishment of the entire council. The effects were varied, ranging from awe to fear, since they just found out that there's millions of such humans that possesses the same bloodline as the boy. Thankfully, the fear disappeared when Sarutobi told them that the doorway that linked their world to the other was sealed by Hari, never to be opened. It was a lie, of course, but a necessary one. When Sarutobi was done with his tale, the room was very quiet, each council member in silence, digesting the revelation that they just heard. "Why did you think he sealed the doorway, Sarutobi?" asked Danzo. He was inwardly afraid of the possibility of hundreds of these magicals coming to Konoha and laying waste to the countryside. According to Hari, the doorway on his side of the world was relatively sealed and hidden from everyone, making sure that our world stayed separate from theirs. Upon arriving here in our world, he immediately sealed this side of the doorway to prevent anyone from coming, and only he can unseal it if necessary," said Sarutobi, another lie to reinforce the truth. He didn't want his kind to destroy his chance of a new life. He wanted to get away from everything, which I quite agree with him. His life has never been pleasant, much worse than what a shinobi had to go through. Everyone nodded in agreement. A boy forced into a war that he didn't need. Losing friends and families, winning in the end despite the odds, but ostracized instead of being labeled as a hero. It was saddening. "Is he going to join the shinobi ranks?" asked Shibi in his usual monotone. "I'm not really sure," answered Sarutobi. "He told me that he was thinking about it and would put the decision on hold until he learns everything there is to know about shinobis. Despite the abilities he possesses, shinobi is a whole new lifestyle for one of his kind." Everyone nodded. "He seemed to enjoy spending time in the hospital, maybe we can ask him to put his skills there to good use," said Tsum, since she saw firsthand what the boy was capable of. Everyone nodded vigorously at the idea. "That is his decision, though I have a few suggestions in mind if you're all open to it," said Sarutobi, catching everyone's attention. "Hook, line and sinker," he thought with a mental grin. Hari returned to the council chamber after one of the Anbis informed him that the council has reached a decision concerning his petition. After pleasantries have been exchanged, the hokage, elected as the voice of the council, started things off. Mahara Hari, it is a pleasure of the council to inform you that your request to start a clan here in Konoha is granted with our blessing. However, there are some questions and conditions that needed to be answered. Are you willing to hear them out? Hari nodded, waiting for the hokage to continue. Good. Concerning your bloodline, will it be passed on to your sons or daughters? Asked Sarutobi as he read through the list of questions and conditions the council wrote down for him. That is a yes and a no. Judging from what I learned of my bloodline, it depends on genetics and luck. My father was a pureblood Mahara while my mother is not, though she has the ability. As a result, I gained the ability to access the bloodline. Answered Hari, spinning a few of the facts to fit this world's concept of a bloodline in magic. However, considering the amount of magic I have in my system, I would say that there is a good possibility that those I sire would possess the same abilities I do given the fact that I train them in their use. Excellent. You see, in order to be a clan with a bloodline, the Konoha Charter states that a clan status may only be given if the bloodline can be passed on. Hari nodded in agreement, understanding this since the Hokage already asked him this question before, but asked it again for the sake of the council. He waited for the next question. You mentioned to me before that there is a possibility of some people having similar abilities you have. If such a person does exist, are you willing to teach that person? I will, Hokage-sama, on the stipulation that they will become a part of my clan, since what I will be teaching them can be considered as a clan secret. Sarutobi nodded in agreement, mimicked by the rest of the council. Clan secret was a heavy thing after all. I won't have it any other way. Do you have the necessary financial resources to start your clan? Ready with this line of questioning, Hari pulled out his account statement and cast a Jamino charm to create multiple copies. He levitated the copies to the council. It was safe to say that they were shocked when they saw the money he had at his disposal. I guess that answers that question. Damn, I haven't seen that much zeros in my entire life. Exclaimed Tsume as she eyed the paper in her hands. I had the same reaction as well, Tsume-sama. Hari said with a chuckle. I don't doubt that Hari don't know. Tsume said with a grin. Her respectful address towards his name shocked Hari before giving the feral woman a smile which she returned. Since all seems to be in order, it is to my happiness that the Mahara clan is now active in Konohagakure no Sado, with Mahara Hari as its head. Congratulations, Hari. Hari bowed to the council who returned it. Thank you, honorable council. You spoke of conditions. Indeed. The Mahara clan is now a part of the Konoha rosters, however, there are some conditions to be met before you are given the privilege a clan deserves. Are you ready to listen to them? Hari nodded. First, before you take your seat here in the Konoha Council as mandated by the Konoha Charter, you are required to study the law of the land and how the village is run, from military to economics. You will be provided the necessary materials to make this happen. You will be tested by Nara Shikaku to see to your proficiency. Is this condition acceptable? Acceptable and agreed upon, Hokage-sama. Hari said with a nod since he already made plans to study the laws of his new home. Second, you will given a tutor to teach you the basics of the shinobi art and see if it is compatible to your bloodline. Agreed, but with stipulations, Hokage-sama. I want to make sure that it is properly scheduled since I will be undergoing my own study in the nature of chakra. I noticed a positive reaction of my magic to the ambient chakra surrounding my home and I want to find out everything I can to avoid problems in the future. Everyone nodded in agreement since they wanted to avoid trouble, especially concerning such a powerful bloodline. Will you share these findings to the council to be added to the Konoha archive? Yes. It is to the benefit of the village after all, though I will withhold information that would give people in-depth secrets to the various abilities of my bloodline outside of the clan. Sarutobi looked at the rest of the council to see their reaction. Everyone nodded, making him inwardly sigh in relief. One hurdle down and more to go. Agreed. Next, you will have to choose a profession that would help the village. You already mentioned that you plan to make your potions available, controlled of course, but the council has decided that it would be a good idea to choose a profession instead of focusing your life as a shopkeeper. Hari nodded since he already talked this out with the Hokage. Agreed, Hokage-sama. I would be glad to spend 2 days, 4 hours a day, in the hospital to help using my bloodline. In the future, it is quite possible that I would join the shinobi ranks, though that is still being deliberated. Everyone in the council sighed in relief when they heard that, making Hari inwardly chuckle. Agreed. If you do decide to become a shinobi of Konoha, you will be tested to determine your exact rank. Keep in mind that the abilities of your bloodline will not be the only basis of your rank. You need to be more than capable in the shinobi arts to become a shinobi of the village. Hari nodded in agreement since he was already excited to learn the shinobi arts. Getting a tutor with the blessing of the council was an opportunity that he wouldn't want to pass out on. I understand. I look forward to learning the shinobi arts with the aid of the tutor you will be assigning me. All conditions are mentioned and accounted for. Any questions? Hari and the rest of the council shook their heads in negative. If that is the case, then I would like to welcome the Mahora clan into our ranks. Congratulations. Hari could only beam in happiness. His place in his new home was now secure. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. Konoha 101. It has been a year since the Mahora clan had been set up with the blessing of the Konoha Council, a year of intense study for the first head of the clan, Mahora Hari, in order to cement his position in the village. Thanks to the resources offered by the hokage, Hari plowed through the many books he was given, including the Konoha Charter, as he studied various subjects concerning the village. From the running of the village to the different responsibilities of shinobis in and outside missions. If he was honest with himself, Hari enjoyed the chore since for the first time in his life. He wasn't forced to learn because of a prophecy. He just learned because he wanted to, and it was a welcome experience. If he was not in the hospital helping the doctors and nurses with their patients, he was either at home brewing potions or taking care of the greenhouse that contained many of the magical plants he used for his potions business, which was very lucrative. Instead of putting up a shop in the village, he consigned his potions to the hospital with the hokage, providing a department which Hari was given the head position. He trained a few doctors and nurses on the various potions he had on stock and allowed it to be sold to the public. However, in order to control the use of the potions, a log was made to make sure it wasn't overused or sold in excess, and stringent methods were in place to make sure that they don't leave the confines of the village without the hokage or Hari's express permission. He didn't want the potions to be used by other villages without their respective permissions. It was safer that way and would give Konoha the monopoly it sorely needed. Since the potions weren't released outside the village, they simply advertised it to the outside that Konoha had a unique treatment method for various health-related problems. It was a week later after the word was spread out that Konoha Hospital saw to their first batch of patients, around 20 of them in fact. Thankfully, the doctors and nurses were thoroughly briefed, so Hari didn't have to see to all of them, only the ones that needed his personal touch. Speaking of potions, he also donated a few batches of certain potions to the different departments in the shinobi ranks. For starters, he gave Ibiki and Anko a batch of vertiserum placed inside a charm box that only the two, Hari and the hokage, could open as a security feature. He also gave some potions to Anbu that would be a big help on high-profile missions, like Polyjuice for a perfect disguise, Pepper Up, since Hari discovered that it can replenish chakra fully without side effects, healing potions, and the likes. Of course, the hokage would have to give his permission to use these unique supplies to avoid the possibility of his subordinates becoming too dependent on them. It was made available for use only on extreme circumstances and still use them as a last resort if their abilities were found lacking. In regards to the laws of Konoha, Hari already passed his proficiency test given to him by Naruhina, who supervised his education in the subject. In just a span of 6 months with a lot of thanks to his occlumency training, he plowed through the various laws with ease and answered the questions in similar manner. After 7 months, he took his position as a clan head and a member of the Konoha Council, which Hari found out to be quite boring, but he persevered since his attendance was mandatory. At the prompting of the hokage, Hari also checked the various students in the Konoha Academy to see if they had the ability to use magic. So far, the test had proven negative, though there were some interesting discoveries that made it worthwhile. For example, even if the students or shinobis didn't have magic in their system to merit the use of spells or magical objects, Hari discovered that chakra was of similar make that some magical discipline would benefit the practitioner greatly. One such discipline was mind magics, which Hari discovered was similar to the techniques used exclusively by the Yamanaka clan, which resulted in Hari giving them some books on occlumency to allow them to focus their bloodline properly and erect mental shields to protect their own minds while scanning others. Legilimency was out of their league since they didn't have active magic to do passive or active mind probes. Inoichi gratefully accepted the gifts and promised Hari that he would be making occlumency a standard practice of their clan from now on, after mastering it himself, of course. Due to the discipline's capability to improve one's focus, he made the book available to the rest of the shinobi population, though he omitted a few information that he deemed dangerous. Everyone was happy, especially the experienced shinobis, since the discipline made it easy for them to use jutsus and improved their chakra control exponentially. The Konoha Council was even contemplating and adding a subject to their academy curriculum to include occlumency training to improve the students' learning curve. So far, they were still studying the idea since they wanted to make sure that it would help the village and not destroy it from the inside. Hari's lessons in the shinobi arts was going well, thanks to his part-time tutor, Yamino Iruka, an instructor in the academy, giving him lessons during the weekends within the threshold of his clan compound. After a brief mind probe, Hari found the academy instructor a kind-hearted person bearing no ill will to himself, so he added him to the wards with an open invitation to visit anytime. Iruka thanked him profusely since the Chunin found a liking to Hari's Western cuisine, which Hari relayed to the elves, much to the little Blyther's pleasure. In the shinobi arts, Iruka helped Hari unlock his chakra, which was quite easy, considering that the wizard had complete control of his mind, body, and magic. Hari discovered that chakra was exactly a counterpart of magic in this world, though with certain limitations and differences. For example, chakra was a combination of physical and mental, spiritual energy. Magic on the other hand was purely from the soul using the body as a conduit. From his studies, chakra had certain characteristics that magic could not replicate. For starters, magic had the ability to prolong one's lifespan by keeping their health at peak efficiency. Chakra also offers the same effect though at a milder rate. Also, chakra could be manipulated to boost a body's physical performance, which magic could not do without the use of spells to merit such an effect. After unlocking his chakra, Hari immediately took advantage of his free time to control it using chakra control exercises. He wasn't interested in learning jutsu since he was well versed in battle magic, which he immediately took to learning since he wanted to be on par to shinobis in case something bad happened that needed his expertise, especially if he joined the shinobi ranks. The wizard/shinobi in training found walking on trees and water to be invigorating. He was also introduced to the resident Taijutsu, hand-to-hand combat expert Mido Guy to help train his body to use chakra, as well as improving his overall physical performance, focusing on speed and strength that the man considered as a must-have for any shinobis. After a year of training, Hari was easily Chunin level in terms of both speed and strength, and growing as he continued training. He found the daily training program to be relaxing, though sweaty, so he had no intentions of stopping anytime soon. Hari's study in magic was also growing in leaps and bounds, similar to his growing skill in the shinobi arts. Due to his work in the hospital, Hari practically ransacked his library in Potter Manor of any medical texts he could find. He even gave the elves the leeway of scouring the magical world back in Britain on similar books. After 2 months of his elves' tireless work, he could safely say that he had the largest collection of medical texts in the history of the magical world. He learned a lot of healing and diagnostic spells from these books and partnered it with some anatomy lessons he had from the many doctors in the Konoha hospital who were more than happy to help him out since it would greatly help in the long run. Shinobi life was dangerous work, so they needed all the help they could get. After half a year of study and taking an exam in the hospital, he became a healer of Konohagakure no Sado since he couldn't be called a medic nin since he wasn't a shinobi to begin with. Many of the doctors and shinobi likened his skills on par with Tsunade of the Sannin, the slug princess, whose medical prowess was renowned throughout the elemental nations. Hari read about Tsunade in the many books Shikaku gave him and preened himself for being compared to such a historical and talented figure. He made a special point to ignore the fact that Tsunade was a chronic gambler who never won a game in her entire life. Hari also started improving his proficiency in battle magic, though he made a special point in learning elemental spells to fit his status as a resident of the elemental nations. He found out that he had an affinity towards lighting spells, allowing him to cast the most complicated lightning-based magic without the use of his wands. He took to learning these spells like a fish to water and even came up with unique lightning-based attacks by combining his chakra and magic, which had more powerful and destructive results. As a favor to the hokage, Hari was also given the task of studying the tailed beasts of the elemental nations. At first, he was of pure disbelief in the existence of such powerful beings, but when the hokage told him the history of such beasts, he became a believer. After explaining the Kyuubi attack that happened 8 years ago, Hari accepted the request of studying Bijuas and their Jinchuricus. Having access to the Hokage's library, Hari found out that Bijuas who were inside their containers were similar to Horcrux, which made him shudder when he made the connection. However, the similarities ended there. From what he learned, Jinchuricus had the ability to tap into the power of the Bijuas they hold and use it as their own, with limitations since humans weren't designed to handle such power to begin with. In most cases, Hari likened it to a symbiotic relationship. The Bijuas continued to live safely inside their containers, ensuring that no power-hungry fool would use their powers and the Jinchuriki, using a portion of their power as payment. For the most part, the Bijuas would fight with their Jinchuriki inside their mind for domination, but seals were in place to ensure that possession wasn't possible. This was made evident when the Hokage informed Hari of Kumo's 2 Jinchurikis, who had complete control over their Bijuas. The only exception to this rule was the Jinchuriki of the Ichibi no Tanuki of Suna, who was a murdering sycophant despite being a child. Hari didn't know why the Hokage made him study the Bijuas and Jinchurikis, but it was all made clear when he was called to a private meeting with the elders in the Hokage's office. So let me get this straight, Konoha currently has a Jinchuriki and it is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi? Hari asked incredulously. He was currently wearing an outfit similar to the Hyuga's, and Hari is wearing an outfit similar to Niji's in the Shippuden arc, though only in blue instead of white. The Hokage nodded. You're correct, Hari. I think I don't need to explain the complexities of Jinchurikis and Bijuus since I asked you to study about them. Hari nodded. Yes, Hokage-sama. However, why tell me this now? He asked curiously. You see, Uzumaki Naruto is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Sarutobi blurted out with a straight face. Whoa. You mean that blonde kid with whisker-like marks on his cheeks, wearing orange, and loved to prank people? Hari asked incredulously. The side of the Hokage's mouth twitched, the two elders scowled, and Danzo was still as blank-faced as ever. That's the one. How did you know him? Asked Sarutobi curiously. Well, I was walking around the village when he came out of a store as if the hounds of hell were after him. I laughed myself hoarse when I saw the people inside the store in color orange. That kid is a great prankster, said Hari with a chuckle before frowning. Is the Kyuubi the reason why many of the villagers kept glaring at him? Sarutobi nodded sadly. Despite how the Yondaime Hokage wanted Naruto to be seen as a hero for holding the Kyuubi, some of the villagers think of him as the Bijuu he is holding, which is why I asked you to study Jinchurikis for a favor. So what do you need? Is there a way to determine if the Kyuubi can influence Naruto? I trust the Yondaime's seal, but I wonder if it is possible to use one of your spells to determine if it has an active influence on the boy or not in order to change the civilian council's mind about the boy. That is a tall order. From what I can determine, a Jinchuriki can communicate with their Bijuu via mindscape. If that is the case, I can easily do a mind probe to determine if it is trying to possess the boy or not. However, I can only do that if Naruto is directly in contact with the beast. If not, then it is a premature move. Tell me. Ever since Kyuubi was sealed inside the boy, has there been any occurrence that gives evidence to the Bijuu being active? This time, Danzo answered. No. Ever since the sealing, there were no signs of the Kyuubi being active, since the use of its chakra would announce its presence to every shinobi in the village. However, it was discovered that Naruto gained some abilities from the Bijuu he holds in his stomach. Oh? What abilities? Hari asked curiously. Regeneration. Danzo answered immediately. Wounds that would take weeks to heal only take a few hours for the boy. Aside from that, the boy has increased stamina and an overly large chakra reserves. Hari winced. Chakra was a combination of physical energy and spiritual energy. If Naruto had large chakra amounts for his age, then his stamina must be through the roof. Ouch, no wonder the boy is always on the run. With stamina like that, keeping still would be a chore. If he ever became a shinobi, then chakra control would be one of his biggest hurdles. Agreed, Sarutobi said with a nod before voicing out his question. So as of now, there is nothing you can do to determine Kyuubi's activity inside Naruto unless the boy came in contact with the beast. For now. Hari said with a nod of agreement. Don't worry. I'll try to find a way to determine it without rousing suspicion. As far as I can tell, it is similar to a spirit possession in my world. I can discreetly hit the boy with a spell if I ever come across him and see if there is an active possession from the Bijuu. I will report whatever findings I have as soon as I have it. Perfect. Thanks for doing this for us, Hari-kun, said Sarutobi with a grateful smile. Anyway, how are your shinobi studies coming along? Hari grinned. Doing well if I do say so myself. I have mastered my chakras similar to how I control my bloodline. I can do tree walking and water walking with ease, and I can keep it up for hours without problem. I haven't learned any shinobi techniques as of yet, except for using chakra to enhance my strength and speed. However, I am compensating the lack of jutsus with battle magic. In fact, I find that I am quite adept in using lightning-based attacks. He boasted with a grin on his face. Oh? Who's teaching you to use chakra physically? Hamura asked curiously. Interested in how a teenager could learn the shinobi arts with such ease. He knew that the boy was capable, he just didn't know how much. Lido guy. Hari answered, making everyone wince. What? He's not that bad. You're not serious, Hari. Kaharu said with a gasp before shuddering when he remembered the spandex-clad Jounin. I don't know how you can stand his quirks. Hari shrugged. Well, all I can say that he is unique. I just ignore his quirks and leave it at that. I just ignore him when he starts prattling about his springtime of youth. Sarutobi gave him a long look before nodding at him in respect. Anyone who can stand Mido Guy and his quirks had his respect. Hari was currently in the Hyuga compound after getting an emergency message from Hiashi. When he got there, the Hyuga clan head immediately cornered him and asking if he could help his wife. From what he discovered, Hiashi's wife, Hitomi, just gave birth to his second daughter, Hanabi, and her health was deteriorating at a rapid pace, and none of the Hyuga medics could help her. This was the reason why he was immediately called to see if he could help her, which he immediately agreed. After Hari was brought into the room where Hitomi was currently residing, unconscious. He immediately cast a diagnostic spell on her to determine the status of her health. What he found was shocking to say the least. Hiashi-sama, did you know that your wife is currently suffering from a potent poison that is slowly killing her? Hari asked the Hyuga clan head. What? How? Hiashi shouted with anger clearly etched on his face. I don't know how, but from what my spells found out, poison is currently destroying her body from the inside, shutting down the major organs. If left untreated, she only has a day or so to live. Can you do anything to help her? Hiashi asked desperately. Hari nodded before reaching into his enchanted satchel that held all his medical supplies and pulled out a bottle containing his stock of bezer. This is what I call a bezer. It has the effect of neutralizing any poison in the side of the elemental nations. I know this for a fact since I saved quite a number of patients with this little thing. Hari informed him before opening the bottle and pulling out a stone. He walked over to Hitomi and administered the bezer orally, using a spell to help her swallow it. After a few minutes, he cast the same diagnostic spell, and the result made him smile. Hiashi saw his smile immediately. What happened? Did it work? A concerned Hiashi asked. It's working as we speak. From what I discovered, the bezer is counteracting the poison. In an hour or two, it would be completely gone for her system. However, she needs to rest, and I will give you a bunch of healing potions to administer to her for a week to counteract the damage the poison did to her body. Since she was poisoned, I suggest that you restrict access to this room. I'll place a ward around the room to make sure that anyone who intends to do her harm wouldn't be able to get past it. Do I have your permission to do so? You have my permission and my thanks, Mihara Dono. Hiashi said with a bow of respect. Hari patted the man on the shoulder. Call me Hari or Mihara-san. There is no need for such formalities between friends, Hiashi-sama. Then I extend the same courtesy Hari-san. Hiashi said with a smile. Great, not let me get to work to ensure Hitomi-san's safety. Said Hari, bringing out his holy wand before casting an intent-based ward with a minor repelling charm to make sure that anyone who intends to harm her wouldn't get past the boundary of the room. He knew that it would suffice, since Hiashi would ensure that his wife was properly protected. Before leaving, Hari made a special point to check on Hanabi to ensure that the poison wasn't also in the child's system and doing the same to a sleeping Hinata. Thankfully, the baby and Hiashi's eldest daughter was free from it, which made both him and the Hyuga clan head thankful. It was 3 hours later that Hari left the Hyuga compound with a smile on his face, since he was happy that he saved a life and gained a friend in the process. Hari was finishing his shift in the hospital when a commotion at the front desk drew his attention. An Anbu wearing a dog mask with silver hair was arguing with a nurse while carrying a bloodied boy in his arms. Hari immediately recognized the boy as Naruto and saw the numerous wounds the boy was having. His blood boiled immediately. What in the world is going on here? Hari demanded in a voice that brooked no nonsense. Mihara-sama. This Anbu here is making a commotion. Said the nurse who was eyeing Naruto with a look of disdain which Hari immediately saw and noted. It seemed that she was one of those people who saw the boy as the Kyuubi he was holding. If you just do your job and treat Naruto, then we won't be having this problem in the first place. The Anbu barked in anger. Having seen enough, Hari took charge of the situation. Enough. Bickering now would not save the boy's life. Turning to the Anbu, Anbu-san, follow me and I will treat Naruto personally. Getting a nod from the Anbu, Hari turned to the scowling nurse. Kimiko-san, I suggest that you start thinking of your priorities. All healer and doctors made an oath to treat all patients, no matter their status. If you don't think that you can follow that oath, I suggest you resign before I bring this to the hokage. You have been warned. With a wave of his hand, he floated the injured Naruto out of the Anbu's hands which startled the man. Follow me, Anbu-san. Hari immediately went straight to his office where all his medical equipments were kept. The hokage gave him his own treatment room, similar to an emergency ward, for treating patients with problems above those the resident doctors could fix. He walked there at a brisk pace with Naruto floating beside him. The Anbu followed without a sound. When they arrived, Hari immediately levitated the boy towards the bed and conjured a note for the hokage to come to his office immediately. He called Frox and sent the bird on his way with the note. What happened? Hari asked the Anbu as he started casting diagnostic spells on the boy after vanishing the boy's clothes. The sight of the boy's mangled body made him furious, causing his magic to lash out angrily, which started shaking the room and scaring the Anbu out of his wits. Thankfully, he was able to control his rampaging magic thanks to his occlumency shields, dampening his emotions to the point that only a cold mask fell on his face. The mob cornered Naruto in one of the side alleys in the entertainment district and attacked him. I got there in time before one of the villagers was about to run him through with a sword. After making sure that the perpetrators were apprehended, I immediately scooped up Naruto and came here. You know the rest. The dog-masked Anbu reported wearily since he felt the power emanating from the man. Sure, he heard of the new Mahara clan and its mysterious head, but seeing the power firsthand was a scary sight. Hari nodded as he floated a clipboard to him and had an enchanted pen write the result of the diagnostic spell he cast on the boy. Concussions, laceration, broken bones, internal bleeding, and some teeth missing, third-degree burns, and the list goes on, making Hari grit his teeth in anger. What the villagers were doing was pointless. Blaming the boy for what his prisoner did to them in the past. It was unacceptable. The hokage appeared a few minutes later while Hari was healing Naruto's wounds, explaining all the while the result of his findings. It was 30 minutes later that the treatment was finished and Naruto was sleeping peacefully on the bed, fully healed without a single scar on his body. "This has got to stop, Hokage-sama," Hari said with a sigh. "This is the third time I treated Naruto since the other doctors wouldn't even give him the time of day. This time, the results of the attack are much worse." "I know," said the Hokage with a grim look on his face before his shoulders slumped in resignation. "No matter how much I try to convince the civilian council that Naruto is innocent of the Bijuu's crime, they wouldn't listen. That is one of the reasons why I ask you to examine him to give testament to my claims." Hari smiled at the aged leader. "You're in luck. After treating Naruto, I took advantage of the situation to check on the boy's physical and mental health. I easily determined the presence of the Kyuubi inside him, but there is a very strong barrier separating him from the boy's mind. From the nature of the barrier, I can say that only Naruto could pass through it and the Bijuu is safely behind it with no possibility of possessing the boy whatsoever." Sarutobi sighed in relief, followed by the dog-masked Anbu. "Is there a way to convince the council of your findings?" Hari hummed, deep in thought. "I can always attest to it by giving them a wizard's oath, since they know the repercussion of me lying with it active. Other than that, nothing I can think of would do. Let me think about that for a few days. I will summon you to a council meeting if such an event is required. Are you alright with that?" Sarutobi asked with clear relief on his face. "No problem, Hokage-sama," said Hari before frowning. "What will happen to Naruto?" "The same as always." That answer didn't sit well with Hari in the slightest. Is he living in an orphanage? Considering that he is still 10 years old. If my guess is correct, he should be attending the academy now. "No, the orphanage threw him out before you came to Konoha. I had him situated in one of the apartments I owned and he is the only resident there. To answer your other question, yes, Naruto is currently attending the academy. In fact, it's his first year there right now." "I see. Why isn't the boy adopted then? Number 10-year-old boy should live on his own," said Hari with a frown, memories of his life with the Dursleys coming to the forefront of his mind. There were multiple instances that the clans wanted to adopt Naruto, but the civilian council kept getting in the way. Since Naruto is not a shinobi, he is currently under the control of the civilian heads. There is nothing I can do unless Naruto became a shinobi, and until then, I can only try to protect him from afar." Sarutobi admitted, making Hari nod, deep in thought. An idea crossed his mind that made him grin. "I have a plan," said Hari with a mischievous grin on his face. End of chapter 3. Chapter 4. Have Hari will travel. Hari's plan concerning Naruto was quite simple. Keep him safe, keep him healthy, and don't let anyone know that he's the one doing it. Hari had no problems putting this plan into action, since magic made it all possible with bells on. Magic was just cool that way. While Naruto was currently sleeping off his close brush with death, Hari commandeered Dog into leading him to the boy's apartment to set up the necessary wards, so the boy wouldn't have to worry about mobs attacking him in his own home. When he got there, he let loose a string of curses that would make a die-hard pirate blanch in fear. Dog even scurried away from the aura that Hari was emitting due to his bout of anger. After regaining control of his rage-induced magic, Hari used the Elder Wand to set up an intent-based repelling ward, so anyone who had a grudge against Naruto and planned to attack him in his own home would be repelled. He was tempted to put up battle wards to shock the whole lot of them, but the Hokage pointed out that such a protection would cause the boy more trouble in the future, especially if the civilians brought it up to the council that the Kyuubi was protecting the boy with its demonic skills. To avoid such troubles, Hari had to modify the wards to have an effect similar to a notice me not charm tied to how it would repel attackers. Instead of pushing them away from the apartment complex, the ward would simply modify their memories or implant new ones, making it so that they would remember something important and be on their merry way. It was too simply and indirect for Hari's taste, but it was necessary. When the protections were properly activated and powered, Hari entered Naruto's home and couldn't help but grimace at the squalor the boy lived in. With a wave of his wand, he transfigured everything into acceptable furniture so the boy would be able to live in comfort. He made a mental note to inform the Hokage about that, so the boy's questions regarding the change of the interior would be attributed to the aged leader's generosity and keeping his meddling a secret. His next stop was the boy's wardrobe, charming the lot of them into porkies, designed to immediately teleport the boy back to his home when cornered by the mob. He made sure to link the enchantment to the boy's emotions, so it would activate when the boy was under intense fear or panic and if his guards weren't around to bail him out. Hari then checked out the kitchen and couldn't help but stare at the number of ramen cups the boy had in his cabinets. It would seem that the boy's diet consisted of nothing but ramen, which was the reason why the boy was shorter than his peers. The boy practically lived and breathed ramen for God's sake. It definitely wasn't health and it showed. He needed to talk to the hokage about providing meals for the boy by assigning one of his elves to the task. Besides, his kitchen staff was demanding more work from him that he couldn't provide. To remedy the situation and to make sure that the boy was eating healthy, he commandeered one of his elves to fill up the boy's kitchen with healthy food for a month and take the expense out from the Mahora clan budget. He made a mental note to suggest to the hokage to delegate someone to teach the boy to cook. If he could cook at 5 years old, then a 10-year-old Naruto would have no problems unless he was lazy. To that effect, he added a few fire safety charms on the kitchen, just in case the boy was destructive in the kitchen. It was best to be safe after all. After doing some last-minute checking, Hari praised to himself for a job well done. It might not be much, but life for Naruto should make a turn for the better. Nodding to Dog, who was practically stunned at the various feats of magic he was doing, he disappeared from the room accompanied by a soft crack, making Dog jump in surprise. Apparating back to his office in the hospital, Hari informed the Hokage of everything he did before hammering out the boy's security details. Aside from the various ambus the aged leader assigned to watch over the boy, Hari decided to also assign one of his elves to the task of keeping an eye on the boy while remaining completely invisible. The Hokage approved of all the measures Hari took for Naruto, but made sure to keep all of his assistants a secret. Hari had no problems agreeing since he didn't want to be placed in the spotlight concerning the boy, since that would nullify any help he could give him. When the Hokage left his office, Hari stayed until Naruto woke up, which didn't take long considering the boy's healing powers, courtesy of the demon inside him. Using a passive mind probe, Hari breathed a sigh of relief since he didn't find any of the Kyuubi's influence, since there was a possibility that the Bijuu would try to contact the boy or vice versa, accidentally, of course, while unconscious. It was a month after the recent attack on Naruto that Hari finally decided to travel, since he wanted to see what the elemental nation had to offer. Besides, it was one of his dreams to travel the world when he was a kid, but unable to do so since he had to leave Britain, and the war with Voldemort practically made such plans an impossibility. Now, however, he had plenty of time to do so without any problems cropping up to put a damper on his plans. He immediately went to the Hokage after making the necessary preparations for the trip. "You want to travel?" asked Sarutobi with a raised eyebrow. Hari nodded eagerly and placed the map he brought with him on the table. Sarutobi peered at the map and noted the inked route the boy planned to take, which would essentially allow him to visit every single village and country in the continent, as well as those only reachable by boat. "As you can see, Hokage-sama, I already have a plan in mind as to where I'm going. Supplies aren't a problem since I can easily buy those that I can't create on the spot, and my travel trunk is already packed full of supplies and necessities," Hari assured him, patting his pocket and eager to start his vacation. "And what are you going to do about council meetings? You do know that you're a clan head, right? Your attendance is necessary," the Hokage pointed out. Hari waved his hand dismissively. "I'll make sure that Frox will listen to your call if there's an emergency that requires my attention. Besides, there's nothing stopping me from coming back here if I'm needed. You already know I can create porkies to anywhere as long as I know my destination. My porky or Frox will get me here in no time." Sarutobi nodded. It was a good plan, and the Mahora clan head had the ability to do what he promised. After all, nothing was stopping him from using his magic to come back to the village when needed. "How about your duties in the hospital?" he asked slyly, not wanting to give in. Sure, there was no problem allowing the boy to go on his vacation, but what's the fun without a little argument to make him work for it? Aside from the extreme cases, the doctors and nurses there can handle everything. I already stocked up the hospital with a year's worth of potions, and I don't think they would be running out anytime soon, since I made it a rule to only use the potions if there's need. My secretary there can call Fox anytime if there's an emergency," Hari informed him with a smile. "Ah yes, how is Nao-chan coming along?" asked Sarutobi. He assigned Nao, one of the accomplished nurses in the hospital, as an assistant/secretary to Hari 2 months ago. It was a good idea too since the boy needed someone to organize his appointments, especially during emergencies. Mahora Hari was just that popular. "Nao is a lifesaver and thanks for sending her to me. Right now, the potion stock is key to her signature and only she can take it out of storage. She passed my training with flying colors and I left her some instruction for those rare potions I placed inside storage." Hari declared with a grin. He knew that the old man was simply piling up excuses to talk him out of his trip. That won't be happening. Not on his watch. From the looks of it, you didn't leave me any room to maneuver, Hari-kun. Sarutobi chided, making the wizard chuckle. We've known each other for more than a year, old man. I already know how you think. Hari tapped his head. It's your fault that you let Inara teach me to plan ahead. Sarutobi grumbled. Cheeky brat. Sighing, he opened a drawer and pulled out a scroll. He unrolled it and signed his name at the end before stamping it with his seal. Double-checking to make sure that everything was in order, he rolled up the scroll and handed it to Hari. That's your travel pass, good for 1 year. I gave you something similar to a Sanin's traveling rights. Just show it to any village you plan to visit, you won't have any problems with custom or the guards. Keep in mind that I can only give you a year's pass. No more, no less. Hari took the scroll eagerly and gave the hokage a 2-finger salute. Thanks a bunch, Hokage-sama. If you'll excuse me, the world awaits. He declared before apparating out of the office with a loud crack. Hari had been on the road for 2 months, and he loved it. Now he knew why Dumbledore loved to travel so much, since there were just so many things he could learn from different cultures. Aside from the usual bandits and the trips back to Konoha to tackle some affairs back home, his journey was relatively smooth and trouble-free. His first stop was in Tanzakugai, where he indulged himself in a week-long gambling spree, since such an experience never crossed his life. He was forever curious about Las Vegas back in his old world and had always itched to give it a try. It would seem that his luck was in play since he practically won almost all the games, from slot machines to poker, especially from a blonde woman with an overly large bust followed by a woman. Hari likened her as an assistant, carrying a pearl-wearing pig. From the way she ranted after the poker game, he cleaned out her entire stash of cash without effort, making him chuckle in amusement. The only drawback to his winning spree was getting kicked out and banned from some of the casinos and gambling dens in the town. Some sore losers even went to the point of sicking their bodyguards on him to steal back the money he won, but he put them all down, either with a stunner or a blast of lightning. When the word got out that he was not to be messed with, there were no more issues from the losers whatsoever. His next stop was Odafukugai, since it was pretty close, only needed an hour to get there without trouble. There was nothing really entertaining in Odafukugai, but he did splurge a bit when some of the clothing shops put on sale high-quality kimonos that he immediately fell in love. The prices were just too cheap to ignore. He made a lot of shopkeepers happy after his 3-day shopping trip. He stayed for a week more since there was a festival going on and he hadn't experienced many of the games offered by the stalls, so he wanted to try them out to see if he liked them or not. It was safe to say that he enjoyed it and won a lot of stuffed toys. He was now glad that he had shinobi training, or hitting those moving targets would have been, to quote a certain Nara, troublesome. It was also in Odafukugai that he experienced his first bathing experience in a hot spring which the city was famous for. Thankfully, he had the whole bath to himself, so he thoroughly enjoyed the peace and quiet. He had no problems sharing a bath since he practically spent 6 years doing so with his fellow Gryffindor boys. He had no problems displaying his bits or seeing others. He was just weird that way. He liked the hot spring so much that he immediately called his elves to him and instructed them to make a hot spring in one of the many vacant corners in the Mahora clan compound. The elves promised to get it done even before he would return to Konoha, not that Hari minded since he didn't plan to return anytime soon, in a year maybe. Having exhausted all the avenues of fun and leisure in Fire Country, his next stop was Wind Country. Thankfully, he was fully equipped to deal with desert travel, and he didn't get lost thanks to the ever-useful Point Me spell, which pointed him to the right direction. He thanked whatever gods was listening for learning cooling charms to ward off the intense desert heat. It was in Suna that he finally met the resident Jinchuriki of the Ichibi no Tanuki. The boy was around Naruto's age, a child sporting red hair, bags around his eyes that had made him look like a raccoon, which Hari assumed would be a unique physical characteristic for holding the demon, or the boy just lacked sleep to develop such intense eye bags, and the kanji of love above his eye. Also, there was nothing ordinary about Sabaku no Gaara. If Naruto was hated by the villagers, the people of Suna feared the boy since it was quite common for Gaara to go on a killing spree without due cause. If Naruto ever snapped due the villagers' treatment of him, then he would become the second Gaara. A thought that made Hari shudder. While he was enjoying the various sights to be enjoyed in Suna, aside from the occasional sand dunes that littered the place, he finally met Gaara while the boy was attacking some people who planned to murder him. Not that they talked face to face since Hari was somewhat invisible at that time. Since he didn't want to get involved with the local police force and sparing the Hokage a headache due to interference, he deftly placed himself under a notice me not charm and observed the boy from afar. The spell later revealed that the seal that kept the Bijuu inside the boy was very weak, lacking the barrier that separated the demon from its host. Unlike Naruto's seal, the one on Gaara was tweaked to make sure that the demon had full access to the boy's mental faculties. Hari shivered at the potential disaster Gaara could do if the demon decided to unleash its full form. When Hari saw Gaara display some abilities of the Bijuu, mainly his manipulation of sand, he made a note on his travel journal for study later on, since the books he read about Jinchuriki didn't elaborate on their capabilities and quirks. He wondered what other traits Naruto might have gained from holding the Kyuubi aside from healing and stamina. He decided to research on that later, but he knew it was premature since Naruto hadn't met his tenant yet. Hari was annoyed, very annoyed. He visited a village in Rice country to enjoy the scenery when the place was attacked by a dozen shinobis wearing forehead protectors with a sound node in the middle. He found out after a mind probe that the attackers were part of the Odo, the hidden village of sound. He wasn't planning to intervene and hightail it out of there, but when the local orphanage was attacked, his saving people thing kicked in. Before the shinobis could leave the orphanage with the children, he promptly stunned them and herded the children and their caretakers to safety. However, he was waylaid when a group of Odo shinobis blocked his path. Hari immediately placed himself in between the attackers and their quarry with a scowl on his face. "Look what we have here, boys. A pretty boy playing hero," said one of the shinobis with a sneer on his face. Hari noted that the man's sneer was nothing compared to Severus Snape. "I'm no hero, but I'm not going to stand by and let you take these children," declared Hari in a cold voice, channeling his magic to be prepared for any attack that might come his way. "I suggest you step back, brat, or you're going to get yourself killed," said another shinobi before pausing. An evil grin appeared on his face. "Belay that, we'll kill you then take the kids back to Odo for our lord to do as he wish." "I don't think so," said Hari while gathering magic into his hands. He clapped his hand in front of him, causing a wave of lighting to fly out towards the attacking shinobis, who barely had enough time to jump out of the way. "What jutsu was that?" shouted one of the shinobis in surprise, giving Hari a look of disbelief. "That is for me to know and for you to never find out, creep," growled Hari before firing a bolt of lightning that hit the man on the chest and causing said man to scream in pain before falling to the ground, smoking and unconscious. The other shinobis were staring at their downed comrade before looking at Hari with fear and disbelief in their eyes. "You're going to pay for that," one of the sound shinobis growled before throwing a chakra enhanced kunai. Hari merely waved his hand, stopping the projectile and hurling it back towards its thrower and embedding itself on the shoulder, making the shinobi scream in pain. "I think not, boya," said Hari before stunning the man, putting him down for the time being. He didn't bother to heal the wound since they were the enemies. Well, maybe later if he was in the mood. Since talk was unnecessary and he was very annoyed that they had the audacity to attack innocents, he simply went full force on the Cretans. Battle spells and lightning-based attacks started flying everywhere, not giving the enemy shinobis time to regroup or counterattack. 5 minutes later, the battle was over and the enemy shinobis were either unconscious or groaning in extreme pain after being subjected to many of Hari's lightning spells. Electrocution, after all, was pretty painful before succumbing to unconsciousness. Nodding to himself for a job well done, Hari turned to the people he protected and immediately blushed when he saw their adoring eyes aimed at him. Thank you so much." The female caretaker gushed out, bowing to their savior in happiness with the other caretakers doing the same. The kids just looked at their savior in happiness and awe. If you didn't help, these kids would have been taken by the Sound Village for their experiments. "You don't have to thank me," asked Hari with a smile before he frowned when he realized what the woman just said. "What do you mean by experiments?" "My village wasn't the only one attacked recently," the caretaker explained with the other nodding in agreement. "According to the survivors from the others towns that got attacked, the Sound Village is on a kidnapping spree for their leader to abduct as many people as possible. Both children and adults, for their experiments." "What?" exclaimed Hari. This reminded him of Voldemort but without the magic. "Are you sure about that?" "Yes." The caretaker nodded with fear in her eyes. "A close friend of mine survived the encounter by escaping through the woods, not stopping until he got to my village. He overheard some of the sound shinobis talking about their lord wanting kids to experiment on something about bloodlines." "Damn it," Hari growled. He couldn't interfere if he wanted to. Despite being a powerful wizard, attacking a shinobi village alone was tantamount to suicide. "Do you have anywhere safe you can go?" "No, we don't have anywhere else to go." The woman shook her head sadly, resigned on being homeless. Some of the kids cried when they heard that. Hari could feel the hopelessness emanating from the survivors. Do you know where Konoha is?" asked Hari, a plan already forming in his head. Yes." The woman answered hesitantly. "Good, I want you to go there with the rest of your group. Inform the guards at the gate that Mihara Hari sent you. Explain your situation to the hokage. He'll help you out," said Hari before pulling out a bag of money. He immediately created another pouch and placed half of the amount to the new bag, which Hari estimated to be around 5 million Ryo notes, before handing it to the wide-eyed woman. "Here's some money to spend for the trip. Go east from here. There's a town there. Rest up for a day and buy supplies. When you're done, immediately go south to Konoha without stopping. If can hire some protection then do it. There's plenty of money in the pouch until you can get situated back to Konoha. Tell the hokage to set you up in a new orphanage and to take the money from the Mahara account." "Understood." The woman nodded and gave Hari a hug, who immediately blushed at the sudden show of affection. "Thank you so much for your generosity, Mahara-sama," the caretaker exclaimed while tightening the hug. No problem," said Hari, starting to get really uncomfortable for being hugged. "Just stay safe, alright? I'll make sure to hide your trail so you won't get pursued." The caretaker let go, and Hari herded her back to the ground and pointed them to the right direction. When they all left the area, Hari immediately stunned every single shinobi on the ground and piled them together. He grabbed a branch and turned it into a porky before tossing it to the pile. The shinobis disappeared without a trace. Maybe spending a day or so in the middle of the desert would give them time to set their priorities straight. It was 2 months later that Hari finally got an urgent summons from the hokage via Fox. He was currently lounging around the beach in Tea Country before making his way to Demon Country by ship in the morning. Raising an eyebrow when he read the missive, the hokage ordering him to come home immediately, making him sigh before drying himself with a quick charm. He apparated back to his hotel room and packed everything into his trunk before shrinking it and placing it inside his kimono outfit. After that chore was done, he bid Fox to take him to the hokage's office. He appeared in front of the hokage in a burst of fire and saw the aged leader currently scowling as he read a document in his hands. "Something wrong, Hokage-sama?" Hari asked curiously since he never saw the aged leader this agitated before. "Did you know what you just did?" the hokage asked. Confused, Hari didn't know what the hokage was talking about. No," Hari half asked, half answered. "I was in Tea Country enjoying the beach before you summoned me home. What seems to be the problem?" The hokage didn't say anything but took out a small black book from his drawer and turned the pages before handing it to him. Curious, Hari took the book and read the page. His eyebrows rose in disbelief. Bingo book entry 2189. Name: Mahara Hari. Age: somewhere between 18 to 25. Affiliation: Konoha. Rank: unknown. Threat level: A. Description: long black hair, wears a pair of glasses, blue kimono, and a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. Placed in the bingo book for assaulting a group of Odo shinobis using strange jutsus, especially seal-less lightning attacks. Bounty: 15 million Ryo, Odo. Condition: to be brought to Odo dead or alive. "What in the world is this?" Hari shouted after reading. "That, my dear Hari-kun, is a bingo book where shinobis with bounties on their heads are placed for other shinobis to hunt for money. I would assume that your placement in there was due to your scuffle with the Odo nins a few months back and saving an orphanage full of kids and their caretaker, whom by the way are asking for you since you practically saved them," said Sarutobi, adding the last part to drive his point home. "Damn. Does this mean that I have to cut my trip short?" Hari asked, saddened that his vacation time was over. Sarutobi's eyebrow rose in disbelief. "You're telling me that you're not afraid of being hunted?" the hokage asked incredulously. No. I can easily escape if I needed to. I'm still wearing my porky ring, so all I need to do is activate it and I'm back in my study. I'm just sad that my vacation time was cut short. I already booked a ship to Demon Country in the morning too," Hari said forlornly. "Why in the world are you going to do in Demon Country?" the aged leader asked with a raised eyebrow. "There's nothing there but mountains, rocks, and swamps." Hari shrugged. "I heard from a fellow tourist I met in Tea that Demon Country hosts a lot of ruins and a shrine dedicated to a priestess who can see the future. I was curious about it, that's all," he admitted with a longing look on his face. "Only you, Hari," said the hokage while shaking his head before getting to the point. "Such is the case, you will have to forgo your vacation and stay in the village until the hubbub dies down. This updated bingo book was issued a week ago and it would seem that the Odo leader is a bit desperate to bring you down." Hari nodded before he remembered something he was meaning to ask the hokage. "Which reminds me, I never heard of an Odo village before. That's where the sound shinobis came from, right? Care to elaborate?" "Yes, my spymaster sent me a message a few years back informing me that a new village has set up shop in Rice Country. Their location and numbers are unknown, though he did inform me that they specialize in sound-based techniques." "Sound, huh?" mused Hari. "Interesting choice considering that sound is invisible and would be effective as a shinobi weapon if they know how to do it right. So, when do you think I can return to my vacation?" Sarutobi sighed when he saw the hopeful expression on the young wizard's face. If you can assure me that you're safe, then you can go back to what it is you were doing. Don't worry about me, old man. Hari assured him with a grin. I'll keep myself safe, no problem. To set your mind at ease, I promise to return home after Demon Country. I can always plan for another trip in the future if nothing exciting happens. Speaking of which, I think we need to talk about me joining Konoha ranks officially and not simply as a capacity of a medic nin. To be honest, fighting those sound shinobis sparked something in me. I don't know why, but I crave adventure all of a sudden. You consider shinobi life as an adventure? The Hokage deadpanned. I don't know if you're brave or suicidal. Shinobi life is hardly an adventure. This made Hari grin. Maybe both. He admitted before giving the Hokage a bow. See you later, old man, Demon Country awaits. Let's go, Fox. Fox, who was currently settled on Hari's shoulder, gave a happy thrill before whisking his master away in a burst of fire to continue the next leg of their vacation. Sarutobi sighed before pulling out a shinobi registration form from a folder and filling it out with Hari's information. It was time to draft him into the rank. The question, however, was where to put him. Naruto was currently at a loss. Strange things had been happening to him as of late and he couldn't explain it. First, he disappeared back to his apartment after being cornered by a mob carrying a lot of pointy weapons. He didn't know how he just did. It was mind-boggling. Second, all the ramen cups he purchased were being replaced by food that he wanted but couldn't buy in the market since the shopkeepers would either throw him out or overcharge their items. He even saw his beloved cup noodles disappear in front of his very eyes to be replaced by a packet of ready-to-eat crab sticks. It was bizarre. Third, a delicious meal would always appear on his table and he was sure that no one could get into his home since he kept it locked. Even when he already prepared a ramen cup for a meal and ready to eat. Said ramen cup would just disappear and replaced with a scrumptious plate of a complete breakfast. It was scary. Last, but certainly not the least, there were no attacks today despite being his birthday. He was always attacked in his home during his birthday. Why the sudden change? He was up all night waiting for the first batch of the villager to break down his door and beat the hell out of him. He was up until morning and no mobs in sight. It was strange. He sighed before digging out the last cup of ramen he hid in the bathroom, since every time he placed them inside the cabinet, they would just disappear and replaced by other food items. He stayed in the bathroom and used a hidden thermos of hot water to cook it. He waited for 5 minutes, then prepared himself to eat the noodle. Why goodness, that was ramen. However, before he could even stick his chopstick into the cup, it disappeared and a plate of healthy food appeared on top of the sink in front of him. His scream echoed throughout the village, making the Anbu guarding him to go crazy and the Hokage who recognized the scream to laugh himself silly. As promised, Hari returned to Konoha after his 2-week stay in Demon Country. Unlike Fire Country where there were a lot of trees to go around, Demon Country had lots of rocks to go around. It was boring, but the number of ruins he found was breathtaking and the visit to the priestess's shrine left him in awe since the place was simply beautiful. Upon returning to Konoha, he spent a day to relax before going back to his usual routine. Waking up early in the morning the next day, he visited Nao in the hospital to check on the potion stock and to see if he needed to brew more. Thankfully, Nao was quite adamant in following his boss's orders, so not all the doctors and nurses were able to make use of the potions for a simple treatment. Hari wasn't begrudging them of his elixirs, but it wasn't a good idea for the doctors to be complacent. They needed to practice their skills or they wouldn't be at peak efficiency in dealing with their patients. Hari made a special point to give his secretary a raise on the next hospital budget meeting. She was just too good for basic salary. After getting the list of potions used and who used them from now, he went to Anbu headquarters to check on Ibiki to log the stock of Veritasirum he gave them before he left on his vacation. Fortunately, he arrived just in time before Ibiki could send a request for more of the popular interrogation medium. He signed the receipt form from a happy interrogator and promised the man that he would be delivering a fresh stock via Fox later that day since he still had a lot of Veritasirum in stock back at home. The last stop for the day was the Hokage's office where he discussed his plan of joining the Shinobi Corps. Considering that he didn't go through the academy though he already knew what a genin and chunin should know about being a shinobi, the Hokage decided to give him a test, so to speak. His actions during the test would determine his rank. Hari couldn't help but be excited over the whole thing and promised to prepare since his exam would be in 2 days. He couldn't wait. Hari was bored. The Hokage gave him 3 tests in order to determine his rank. The reason for the boredom was the first test, a written exam where his knowledge would be tested. After getting the test paper from a smirking chunin, he was told that he needed to answer everything in 1 hour or else he would fail. Annoyed at being underestimated, Hari simply pulled out his wand, not taking his eyes from the chunin, and tapped the paper while willing his magic towards it. In the span of a minute, all the questions were answered. The non-verbal spell was from Dumbledore's collection, which the old coot invented to simplify his paperwork during his tenure as Hogwarts headmaster. It would fill out any form as long as the knowledge was present in the caster's mind. No need to sprain his hand writing down the answers. Magic was just great that way. Double-checking his answers and satisfied that everything was correct, he leaned back in his chair and placed his foot on the desk, a relaxed look on his face. He couldn't help but give the examiner a smug look and spent the next 57 minutes taking a nap. Harry was staring at the large iron fence that marked off the boundary of Training Ground 44, or lovingly called the Forest of Death, by the local shinobi residents. He knew of the forest's reputation since he was practically its neighbor, and only his wards were stopping the creatures there from invading his compound. His next task was to traverse the forest, find the Chunin holding the scroll he needed to pass, take the scroll, and make his way to the tower located in the very heart of the Forest of Death. He had 5 days to make it to the tower with the scroll to pass this portion of the exam. Deciding to do this task the shinobi way, he entered the forest and slowly used the skills he learned from his tutor to search out the target who was holding the key to passing the exam. He enjoyed the hide and seek at first, but when the predators of the forest started coming out in droves, he was getting annoyed. After putting down the 5th batch of tigers on steroids who intended to turn him into a Harry King for lunch, he pulled out the Elder Wand, raised it over his head, and growled. "Achio shinobi who is holding my scroll." Due to the amount of magic he poured into the spell, as well as the satisfaction of the deathly hallow to help its master, the shinobi who was holding the scroll came zooming into his location with a look of shock on his face. Harry immediately stunned the man before he could even come within range, dropping him to the ground like a puppet cut from its strings. A minute later, he was the proud owner of an exam scroll after pilfering the Chunin's many pockets. Before leaving, he decided to prank the man by changing his shinobi outfit into a pink tutu, lengthened his hair before turning it blonde. He took a picture and made his way to the tower. Harry made his way to the tower in a record-breaking time of 3 hours after retrieving the scroll, using his wand to point him to the right direction, and the judicious use of the treetop highway of the forest, meaning he used the branches to make sure that he didn't get to meet the overly large tigers who developed a healthy grudge on him. It wasn't as easy as he thought it would be, since the aerial treetop highway was also riddled with oversized birds that wanted meat for breakfast. Not wanting to play around, Harry simply surrounded himself in an overpowered Protego shield and barreled through the flying denizens of the forest until he got to his intended location. When he got to the tower and surrendering the scroll to the Chunin who was waiting for him, he was directed to the inner sanctum for the last phase of his exam. He found himself in an arena of sorts. "Congratulations in making it this far, Harry-kun," said Sarutobi with a grin on his face. He saw what the boy did in the first 2 exams through his crystal ball and laughed himself silly when he saw the Chunin turned into a ballerina that Albus once described to him after reading it in a book. He made a mental note to send Harry a gift later for making him laugh so hard. "Your last exam is to fight against a Jounin. You don't have to win. All you need to do is to display the skills you have at your disposal and survive for the next 10 minutes. Your rank will be judged after the fight. Are you ready?" Harry nodded with a cheeky grin on his face. "Ready and waiting, Hokage-sama. Who's going to be my opponent?" he asked curiously. "Your opponent will be Sarutobi Asuma, my son and a Jounin of this village," the Hokage informed him. As if on cue, Sarutobi Asuma appeared in the middle of the stage with his trademark cigarette on his lips. "So Pops want me to test you, eh?" he asked as he eyed his opponent with a speculative look on his face. "Seems like it," Harry said with a nod. "You do know that smoking kills, right?" "Smoking kills civilians except shinobis. I coat my lungs in chakra to make sure that none of the harmful stuff sticks to my lungs. Why do you think my dad is still alive considering that he's been smoking longer than I have?" explained Asuma with a grin. "Oh," said Harry, comprehension dawning on his face. "Now that's something you don't learn every day. Tricky old monkey, isn't he?" "But he is. Are you ready now, Hari-chan?" said Asuma before getting into his taijutsu stance, smirking all the while. "Ready and waiting, Asuma-kun," replied Harry with a grin, getting into his own stance, the defensive form of the Tai-Kai style he learned from a book he brought with him from Britain. Thanks to Guy's coaching, he was able to master the style with a few additions of his own design to suit his needs. A shout of Hajime from the Hokage got the ball rolling. Asuma charged his opponent and delivered a right hook that Harry easily parried with a sweep of his right hand, while his left was already heading towards the Jounin's sternum in a traditional palm strike. However, Asuma was a Jounin for a reason. Using his quick reflexes and experience he gained from training and from the battlefield, Asuma spun to the side, dodging the attack, and used his momentum to launch a backhand blow with his free left that would have hit Hari's cheek if he didn't crouch in time, before launching a shoulder slam on Asuma's back that threw the Jounin, who was able to recover quickly from the blow and went on the defensive. Wanting to make the most out of this fight even if he was slated to lose, Hari attacked Asuma with the Taikai's continuous strike, consisting of palm strikes, jabs, knife hand thrusts, and punches at high speed, not giving the experienced Jounin a chance to counter. However, he made a mistake of overextending a punch that the Sarutobi heir caught and capitalized on. Asuma grabbed the extended hand before flipping Hari over his shoulder and throwing him away. Thankfully, Hari was able to catch himself in midair and apparated a few meters behind the man to catch his breath. Despite training himself physically every day, using your skills in a fight was a whole new ballgame. He vowed to indulge in various sparring exercises with Iruka in order to get used to continuous fighting. Asuma grinned when he saw his opponent correct himself with that disappearing trick of his. He knew that it wasn't Shunshin nor was it any form of shinobi speed. It was pure teleportation that was only possible because of Hari's unique bloodline that his father told him about. Flipping through a series of hand seals while amassing a huge amount of wind chakra to his hands, he threw it out, palm forward, and shouted his attack. Duatin. Great breakthrough. Shouted Asuma as he thrust his hands forward, palms facing Hari, and expelling the wind chakra he gathered for the techniques. A huge gust of wind exited Asuma's palm and barreled towards Hari, who saw the attack coming, since the wind was so thick that it had a somewhat hazy appearance. Considering that he didn't know any defensive jutsus, Hari decided to resort to magic to even the playing field a bit. Protego Maxima. Hari shouted, creating a magical dome of pure defensive magic. Asuma's wind jutsu hit the magical barrier to no effect with Hari protected from the wind blast. When Hari saw the attack disperse, he smirked before deactivated the spell. If that's how you want to play, then who am I to disappoint? The Mihara clan head taunted with a cheeky grin before pointing his finger towards his opponent and calling out his favorite spell. Fulgur Effulgio. A beam of pure lightning erupted from Hari's finger towards Asuma, who stared at it disbelievingly. Seal-less jutsus were rare, but seal-less elemental jutsus were even rarer. A bit desperate and not wanting to get hit by such a condensed attack, Asuma sped through a set of seals for the only defensive technique in his arsenal. Duatin. K's no tate. Asuma shouted before a dome of rotating wind surrounded him. The lightning spell hit the wind shield, and both fought for dominance. Fortunately for Asuma, lightning was weak against wind, so Hari's attack dissipated without dealing him any damage. You need to do better than that, Hari-kun. Asuma taunted but immediately regretted it when he saw the mischievous glint in the boy's eyes. Hari decided to let his inner marauder come out to play, in other words, being dramatic, so he spread his arms wide and conjured a dozen spears out of nothing but air and let it float around him. Asuma eyed the floating pointy objects of doom floating around his opponent with one thought in mind. Oh shit, he cursed his big mouth. Oh, I will, Asuma-kun. I will. Hari said with a smirk before thrusting his arms forward, launching the conjured spears outwards the Jounin at amazing speed. One of the spells that Hari could do automatically and easily was telekinesis after reading an obscure book on mind magics from the Potter library that one of his elves found. He practiced it to the point that he could float anything from small rocks to heavy trees with ease. Asuma immediately started dodging, but Hari's next words scared him and made him double his efforts so that he won't be shish kebab by the flying spears. Oh, before I forget, did I mention that I can control the flight of my spears? Hari said in a childish voice before using his right hand to guide the flying spears, changing direction in mid-air to follow Asuma as he continued to run around the room. Since you want me to do better, might as well give you more toys to play with, eh? But that said, Hari transfigured some of the spears into wolves and animated them to attack. Asuma immediately cursed and shouted foul play, which he and everyone else in the arena ignored. This was a fight after all. Now, the Jounin was faced with 6 very sharp pointy spears and 6 hungry-looking wolves. Gulping, he started running around, dodging bites and spears desperately. Despite his predicament, Asuma saw that Hari had to concentrate so the spears would follow him. Coming up with a hasty plan, he used a Shunshin to appear directly behind his opponent and launched a kick that would hit the spine. He didn't expect it to hit, but it would be enough to distract his opponent to buy him some time. Hari sensed chakra behind him, so he immediately apparated out just in time before the kick could hit him. He appeared perched on the wall before drawing out his holy wand and vanished the spears, but leaving the wolves to play with his opponent. Setting his sight on his target, he bellowed out his next spell. Incendio. Since he overpowered the spell, a stream of white fire flew from the tip of his wand towards the Jounin, who was busy trying to get away from the wolves. The fire hit the man, causing a large explosion and covering the arena in smoke. Hari tensed as he waited for the smoke to disperse, and when it did, he saw his wolves were already gone from being hit by his overpowered spell. And instead of Asuma, there was a charred log in the middle of the crater. Shit, replacement technique. Cursed Hari before apparating away from his spot just in time to get away from a slash, courtesy of Asuma's trench knife. Tricky little bugger, aren't you? Asuma grunted when his attack didn't hit its mark. He scoured the field to see Hari perched on the opposite wall, looking at him warily. You're too young to get a one-up on me, Hari-kun. He said as he flipped through a different set of hand seals. Buetin. K. Zenbin. More than a dozen senbin needles made of wind materialized around Asuma before flying towards Hari at insane speeds. Seeing that he couldn't apparate in time, Hari simply created a protego to protect him from the barrage, which proved to be a mistake since Asuma overpowered his jutsu. The first barrage hit the shield causing some cracks to appear. The second batch shattered it. Hari apparated to get away from the next wave, but he was too late because some of the senbins hit him on the arm and shoulder when he turned to teleport. Hari appeared a few meters away from Asuma's left shoulder and arm bleeding from where the senbins hit. Growling in pain, he decided to take the kid's gloves off. Ignoring the pain he was feeling, he pushed both hands towards Asuma, palms forward. Vulgar Fluctus. A wave of lightning flew from Hari's palms heading towards his shocked opponent. Asuma jumped to avoid the attack, but he was a bit late and his foot was hit, causing electricity to surge through his body, making him yelp in pain as he was electrocuted. Not done with his barrage, Hari decided to use one of few techniques he created as a last resort, techniques that combined the energies of controllable chakra and conjuration magic. He extended his hand towards the screaming Jounin, fingers stretched wide. Vinculum fulgur. Each extended finger emitted a thin bolt of lightning in the form of chains, making its way to Asuma. Many thought that the attack missed because it passed harmlessly at Asuma's side, but changed their minds immediately at what happened next. Growling, Hari waved his fingers as he controlled the lightning chains, changing direction and wrapping Asuma, electrocuting him in the process. Hari immediately ended the technique when he saw his opponent black out from the pain. Asuma slumped to the ground unconscious and smoking, signifying that Hari won the match. Hari dropped to his knees and panted from exertion. Beads of sweat poured down from his face due to the amount of focus, chakra, and magic he needed to expend for his last attack. One of the reasons why he didn't like to use Vinculum fulgur was the amount of magic and chakra it needed to create, as well as immense control requirement in order to manipulate each of the lightning chain to any direction he wished. The farther the opponent, the more lightning was needed to create, which in turn would eat up a lot of both chakra and magic from Hari's reserves. He was brought out of his rest when he heard clapping from all around the arena. He looked up to see everyone who watched the fight give him an approving look, as well as excited clapping for such a wonderful show of skill and power. Some of them was hooting in excitement for a great fight. Hari couldn't help but grin. Wanting to know the status of his opponent and praying that he didn't overdo it, he pushed himself from the floor and reached towards his pouch before pulling out a vial of pepper-up potion. He downed it in one go and felt his chakra go back to normal, though his magic reserves were still slowly being refilled. Despite the lack of magic the potion replenished in his body, it was enough to keep him energized for what he was going to do next. He walked over to an unconscious Asuma, flicked out his holy wand, and fired diagnostic spells towards the downed Jounin. Seeing that the Jounin was alright except for a few burns and nerve damage, he looked up to the hokage who was looking at his son in worry. Don't worry, Hokage-sama. Your son is alright. Just a few fried nerves and burns, that's all. Just give him a nerve repair potion and some rest, then he's good as new, said Hari, which made the hokage sigh in relief. A team of medic nin came into the arena and hauled Asuma away to be treated after Hari gave them some instructions to follow. They didn't question Hari because of his status as a medic nin. Thank you, Hari-kun. That was an amazing fight if I do say so myself. Now, are you ready to hear the evaluation from the jury? The aged leader asked. Hari nodded, stilling himself to hear what the experts had to say. The Chunin who took charge of the written exam stood up and coughed to get everyone's attention. Lahara Hari finished his written exam in record-breaking time of 2 minutes and spent the rest of the time relaxing. He said with a shake of his head. Those who heard that gave Hari an incredulous look. The purpose of the exam was to find a way to cheat, but it would seem that Hari-san was capable in answering all of those questions with ease. Tell me, Hari-san, how did you answer all those questions considering that all of them were Jounin level? Hari scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Well, I know the answers to those questions because I saw that it was the same test Shikaku-san gave me when I was taking his proficiency test to see if I studied the shinobi arts properly. If you want to blame someone, then blame him, he said with a grin, causing the Chunin go grumble about lazy and annoying Naras. Well, I guess that you passed that part of the test, said the Chunin before sitting down. The next Chunin who stood up was in a pink ballerina outfit, causing a lot of the shinobis in the area to laugh at him. Ha ha. Very funny. Snarked the totally embarrassed shinobi. Anyway, I don't know what you did to launch me from my hiding spot to your location, only that you did. Despite the un-shinobi-like tactic, you got the scroll as your mission dictated and made your way to the tower without getting eaten by the residents of the forest. You passed my exam. Now can you please get rid of this ridiculous outfit? He begged in a whining voice, resulting in a fresh wave of laughter. Hari grinned and nodded before waving his wand over to the Chunin, reversing the change. The shinobi inspected his outfit before sighing in relief. To Hari's surprise, the hokage spoke next. Since Asuma is currently unconscious, I'll handle your evaluation for the final part of the exam. I can say that your taijutsu style was flawless, though you got tired too easily, since you weren't used to prolonged fighting, though that can be easily remedied through practice. Your use of techniques was astounding as always thanks to your bloodline, and it was perfectly executed to counter Asuma's experience and your inexperience in shinobi battle by being unpredictable. Despite the lack of ninjutsus in your arsenal, you gave a good fight and won. Finally, I would just like to say that you lack the experience in planning your attacks, especially on the fly, since a shinobi should always be 3 moves ahead of his opponent. Nothing a good experience in missions couldn't fix. He paused to receive the 2 papers handed to him by the first 2 examiners. He glanced at it briefly before giving a nod. To conclude this exam, I congratulate you in passing all 3 tests with flying colors, and I am more than happy to give you the rank of Takebetsu Jounin. Welcome to the fold, Mihara Hari, Takebetsu Jounin of the Leaf. Hari whooped in happiness amidst the clapping of his now comrades in the Konoha ranks. End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5. Becoming a sensei, what? After given the rank of a Takebetsu Jounin by the Sandaime, Hari was immediately invited over to the Hokage's office to brief him of his responsibilities and why he was given such a rank. According to the Hokage, a Takebetsu Jounin was a shinobi who showed a unique skill and mastered it to Jounin level. For example, Gekko Hate was a Takebetsu Jounin because of his skill in swordsmanship, making him a formidable shinobi, even if the guy lacked ninjutsu and genjutsu skills. Another example was Mitarashi Anko because of her skills in assassination, infiltration, and interrogation. In Hari's case, he was a Takebetsu Jounin because of 2 reasons. 1. He was quite capable with his magic and able to use it to amazing feats in and out of missions, especially when the Hokage pointed out that his lightning attacks were practically B-to-A rank techniques due to their destructive power. 2. He was a fully registered medic nin with a lot of achievements in the field of healing thanks to his potions and spells. The Hokage proudly placed his skill to be almost on par with Tsunade. Hari just needed to expand his knowledge of the human body, then he would be good to go. Such was the case. Hari was given a support role on missions with a leeway of being a frontline fighter during emergencies. The wizard now shinobi had no problems with that since he needed to train in the shinobi arts like mad if he wanted to be successful. Besides, he had a bounty now so he needed to be stronger. Strong enough to repel any attacks coming his way. Hari was happy with the result of his exam and rank, but his happiness was put to a stop when the Hokage informed him that he wouldn't be given any missions as of yet. The Hokage explained that due to his lack of battle and mission experience, he would need to spend 6 months in shinobi training with a selected group of Jounins to make sure that his skills were up to par in the field. Shinobis were nothing but thorough in their profession, and the Hokage wanted Hari to achieve mastery level in his abilities to make sure that he survived the outside world. It was right there that Hari realized that he had no problem using magic in a fight, but shinobi battles were different to wizard battles. In shinobi battles, skill was a basis for survival, but success requires looking underneath and to expect the unexpected. This was what Hari lacked that the Hokage pointed out much to the newly minted Takebetsu Jounin's chagrin. The next 6 months of Hari's life as a Takebetsu Jounin was a routine between hospital work, potion brewing, studying magic and anatomy, as well as sparring with various Jounins in the field, including Sarutobi Asuma, who seemed to have made it a life goal to give Hari a beating of a lifetime, sore loser. Mitarashi Anko, who loved to clobber him silly using her snakes and drawing a lot of his blood in the process, bloodthirsty woman. Gekko Hate, the sword-wielding menace, who Hari had to resort to running around the training ground just to get away from the manslayer as he dubbed him. And finally, Kurenai, a newly promoted Jounin, to teach him to fight through illusions, but putting him in the most horrid and mind-scarring genjutsus that girl had in her arsenal, sadistic mind-freak princess of beauty. Because of the number of sparring partners he had every day, Hari had to go home bloody, bruised, and tired as hell. Thankfully, his elves were experts in nursing him back to health, so he was in perfect working order for his next scheduled beating. It was thanks to his many spars that Hari was able to improve his battle sense, so to speak. His sparring partners would point out flaws to his technique, though not providing solutions to correct them. As a result, Hari had to study the magical arts and experimenting with his magic to conform to different battle scenarios and come out the victor. This also resulted in him experimenting on the many methods of combining both chakra and magic for better results, as well as adding to his repertoire of techniques that he would be using instead of shinobi jutsus. He didn't know it, but his sparring partners made a unanimous decision to not coddle him and let him improve on his own power. They were letting Hari do just that without telling their unpracticed dummy, so to speak. They didn't want to get pranked in retaliation after all. Asuma attacked him with ninjutsu and taijutsu. This resulted in Hari improving his skill in shinobi battle, as well as coming up variations to his magic chakra techniques to counter every jutsus thrown at him. The training with Asuma also improved Hari's strategy-making level to be able to create on-the-spot tactics even under duress. Anko just attacked him in a straightforward manner without any fear of hurting him. Because of this, Hari had to force himself to improve his ability to dodge and expect attacks from any direction, since the snake mistress of the leaf was an expert in stealth and launching attacks to his blind spots. Hari also found out that he could communicate with Anko's snake summons using the parcelting skill he received from Voldemort. But unlike the snakes on his world, summoned snakes would only listen to their masters but can be persuaded if necessary. For example, Hari would use parcelting on the snakes that bound him from Anko's shadow snake hands technique to refrain from biting, which they easily complied. They might not have followed his orders to disobey their masters, but summoned snakes in general respected him enough to avoid killing him. Gecko Hayate improved Hari's reflexes and reaction time to weapon-wielding opponents. Or more specifically, a sword. Gecko helped the wizard shinobi utilize his flowing taijutsu style by forcing Hari to block, parry, or even dodge sword strikes while delivering blows after blows to bring down his opponent. Because of Hayate, Hari mastered the reparo spell that it became instinctive to cast, since the Takubetsu Jounin swordsman had a sadistic streak in slicing his clothes to pieces with that damnable katana of his. Speaking of Hayate, Hari had to force the sick Jounin to the hospital for treatment. He found out that Hayate's family all had this genetic disease that targets the lungs. It was a well-known fact that the Gecko clan tend to die before they reach the age of 40, even less if they were shinobis, because physical exertion made the disease worse. Such was the case. Hari had to force Hayate to stick to the hospital for a week to undergo treatment using potions and spells to get rid of the problem. It was safe to say that the treatment was a success, and Hayate promised that he would take it easy on Hari's clothes during sparing as payment. The glare that Hari gave the Jounin didn't faze the man in the slightest. Mahara Hari became a well-respected shinobi in the Konoha ranks as he accompanied his comrades in many missions. Thanks to his training and ever-growing experience in the field of shinobi battles, his diverse set of skills and abilities made it possible for him to protect his team, launch devastating attacks in a blink of an eye, erect impenetrable barriers that can easily withstand A-rank jutsus. And finally, make sure that everyone in his team survived no matter what state they were in after the mission. He was both respected as a powerful fighter and healer, which made the Mihara clan head proud of his accomplishments. For 5 years, he went to a total of 20 C-rank missions, 15 B-rank, 17 A-rank, and 3 S-rank missions, a feat for someone who had only been a shinobi for half a decade. He wasn't given any D-rank missions because of his work in the hospital. Not only was he the most requested Takubetsu Jounin to be part of a mission, his determination to make sure that his team make it out alive was legendary, more so when he saved a man on the brink of death after getting the heart punctured by a stone spear from an Iwa Jounin. Said Iwa Jounin was electrocuted to unconsciousness by Hari and left said Jounin man smoking in a very deep crater. Because of that, there was a rule among the Konoha shinobi ranks. Don't anger Mihara Hari if you want to stay sane. He won't kill you, but he'll make your life a living hell if you do, heal you to perfect hell, then do it again. Speaking of which, Hari was also the source of many talks since he accomplished all of his missions without having to take a life. Sure, he could dish out devastating techniques using his so-called bloodline, but he only went to the point to put his enemies in the brink of death and none closer. In most cases, the deed of killing was mostly handled by his teammates, and they didn't blame him for it, considering his status as a medic. Medics were supposed to save life, not take it. Though Hari's teammates tend to ignore the various lightning shots electrocuting the enemy with laughter accompanying the screams. Nope, they didn't see a thing. Ignorance was bliss, after all. Because of his skill in magic and his ability to heal anyone, his bingo book entry was updated to bestow upon him 2 nicknames. One to bring fear and the other to bring courage to his friends and comrades. To his enemies, he was known as the Konoha no Raijin, lightning god of Konoha, because of his kills in lightning. To his friends and comrades, he was the Jinsei no Shinobi, shinobi of life, for his mastery of the healing art. Despite his many achievements, he didn't rise above A rank because of his lack of kills, though he scared a lot of enemy shinobis because of his sadistic streak in electrocuting his opponents. thus giving him another alias Konoha Ha plus Adasudo o Hikayakosu, trigger happy sadist of Konoha, for his signature technique of firing lightning bolts without pause while laughing at his opponents as they tried to get away from him. Hari yawned as he was woken up by the bright glare from the sun streaming through his open window. He glared at the offending ball of fire before yawning while pushing himself off the bed. Grumbling about annoying suns and early morning calls from the hokage, he dragged himself to the bathroom for a cold shower to wake himself up. He was still tired since he had a bit of training exercise with Anko in the Forbidden Forest last night. That woman doesn't take no for an answer. That sadistic woman was as bloodthirsty as ever, and he regretted adding the woman to the wards so she could come anytime. Despite being a close friend of his, the woman was a headache to deal with. It was 20 minutes later that he exited his room after donning his usual outfit. He decided to forego the standard jounin outfit and stuck to his favorite blue kimono, hair tied neatly that reached the middle of his back, revealing his lightning-shaped scar on his forehead and his hit-eye around his waist like a belt. He no longer wore glasses since he was able to find an eye correction potion from one of the many healing texts in the Potter library. The only reason why it didn't click in the wizarding world was the amount of pain the corrective potion would induce to the patient. Since he had a high pain tolerance thanks to the Dursleys, Voldemort, Death Eaters, and his many sparring partners in the shinobi world. He drank the potion without fear and a few seconds later, groaning in pain and rolling on the floor as the potion took effect. An hour later, he had perfect eyesight much to his delight, disregarding the cruciatus-like pain he had to suffer through during the correction. He apparated out of his home and into the Hokage's office, finding himself in the company of the aged leader, as well as his fellow comrades in the shinobi ranks. "Good morning, Hokage-sama. I hope I'm not late for whatever it is you called me here for," said Hari as he made a face, earning him various chuckles from the people in the room. "Oh no, you're not late, Hari-kun. In fact, you're just in time," Sarutobi said with a grin. Hari immediately saw that the old man was up to something and that something had something to do with him. He inwardly shuddered as he prepared himself. "In time for what?" he asked, knowing that he just walked into something that he would forever regret. "Why, genin team selections, of course. As if you didn't know," Sarutobi said mischievously. "As a matter of fact, no, I didn't know. So why am I here?" asked Hari, already dreading the answer. "Well, all the jounins in this room are the cream of the crop and I called everyone, yes, this includes you, Hari-kun here, so you can pick your own team," the Hokage said with a huge smile on his face. Hari stared at the Hokage who simply stared back. The battle of stares continued for a few more minutes with the various jounins in the room holding their breath, silently making bets with their comrades as to who would give in. Eventually, someone did. Hari groaned and palmed his face in irritation. "I hate you, you know that right?" snarled Hari in annoyance. The groan was mimicked by some of the jounins in the room, followed by a click of coins exchanging hands. Yes, I do. And I love you too, Hari-chan," said Hokage with a content smile on his face. The Chan reference caused everyone to laugh. This went on for a few seconds before he coughed to gain everyone's attention. "Alright, fun's over. Now, you are all here for the genin selection. We have a total of 31 graduates from the academy. You already got the files so I'm open for recommendations." Hari suddenly had a sinking feeling as he listened to the Hokage. He didn't know any files nor did he get any. What in the world was the old man talking about, or in his case, planning? "Now before we begin, let me just say Hari-kun that I have a very special team in mind for you. However, I want you to wait for the rest to finish before we discuss your future team," said Sarutobi with a pleased look on his face. After all, he just roped the very jounin that was able to get out of the prospect of taking a team for 2 years. Now he had no excuses. Sarutobi was mentally cackling in delight. "Fine," Hari said with a sigh, resisting the urge to bang his head on the wall or throw a lightning bolt at the Hokage's smug face. "On with the show, I guess." The selection of teams went on for an hour and a half, ending with Hari being the only one in the room. "Thanks for waiting, Hari-kun," said Sarutobi, who immediately chuckled when the wizard shinobi gave a resigned nod. He pulled out a piece of paper from the stack on his desk and handing it over. "That is the file of your team." Hari glanced at the file and noticed that there was only one paper. I think you're getting senile, old man. Isn't a team supposed to be made of a jounin and 3 genins?" asked Hari as he looked at the picture of a blonde boy with whisker marks on his cheek. "That is true, but I want you to read the file first and tell me what you can conclude from it," suggested the Hokage, gesturing towards the paper Hari was holding. Sighing, Hari read through the academy file of one Uzumaki Naruto and couldn't help but frown. There were plenty of discrepancies in the file and he immediately came to a conclusion. "This is not the Naruto I know, Hokage-sama," declared Hari as he waved the bogus file. "If I didn't know any better, this file is rigged." "You're correct, Hari-kun," said Sarutobi with a nod. The file that you have there is practically the only file in existence for one Uzumaki Naruto, and even his teacher's notes, one Yumini Iruka, isn't there. It meant that someone rigged the file or sabotaged Naruto's education to the point that he is far below his peers. Sheesh. The civilians I can understand, but the shinobis too. Hari said incredulously. Don't tell me they hate the boy for the Kyuubi. It is possible, but I have a distinct feeling that the civilian council have a hand in that decision. Though that is moot point since Naruto passed and became a genin. Declared Sarutobi with a proud smile on his face. Oh? Even if the record I am holding says that he failed, spectacularly I might add. He still passed. Do tell. Asked Hari with a glint in his eyes. Sarutobi immediately told Hari what happened last night, Mizuki tricking Naruto and stealing the forbidden scroll in guise of a special exam to promote the boy to jounin. Due to the boy's desperation to prove himself, Naruto immediately stole the scroll from the Hokage's office, a task that Hari was amazed at considering how protected the place was. The end of the tale was Naruto beating the crap out of the traitor, using the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and Iruka, giving the boy his forehead protector that elevated him from academy student to genin. Interesting. For an academy student to learn Kage Bunshin in a span of 2 hours is noteworthy. The boy has talent. Too bad that the idiots aren't helping him hone such talent. Hari growled. That is where you come in. Said Sarutobi with a smile. I want you to take Naruto as a temporary apprentice. Teach him everything starting from the beginning. Hari sighed. It was possible, sure, but the task was going to take a while unless Naruto pulled off a miracle. You do know that it's going to take a long time to train Naruto to the level of his peers, right? I mean, you want me to compress 5 years of lessons into months. An impossibility if I do say so myself. Not impossible. Hard, yes, but not impossible. Sarutobi corrected him. Do you know the schematics of the Kage Bunshin? Hari nodded before realization dawned in his eyes, followed by a mischievous glint and an evil chuckle. This was mimicked by Sarutobi, and the two spent a whole 30 minutes laughing their head off, scaring the crap out of the secretary who was about to enter the room. Naruto was annoyed. Not only was his peers showing their disbelief that he passed, not seeing the forehead protector tied on his head, Iruka-sensei also announced that he didn't have a team, but to wait for someone to fetch him for further instructions. Here he was now, waiting for his escort along with Team 7, made up of Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and a creepy kid from last year's class named Sai. Of course, he tried to strike up a conversation with Sakura, but all he got was a punch to the head and various statements of belittlement with him ending up depressed in the corner of the room. However, he was brought out of his thoughts when the door opened to reveal a shinobi that he sometimes saw during his many prank runs in the village. Not only was this jounin dressed to impress compared to the outfit of the other jounins in the village, but there was a presence around this man that screamed power. Uzumaki Naruto. Said the jounin, earning his attention, as well as everyone in the room. That's me. Exclaimed Naruto with excitement. He didn't know why he was excited, but he was. Good, starting today, you're going to call me sensei and you're going to be my student. Understood. Said the jounin with a grin on his face mimicked by Naruto. Hi, sensei. Shouted Naruto as he made his way to the front. However, before he could reach his teacher, a voice stopped him in his tracks. How come the dope gets his own personal sensei while I'm stuck with these losers? Said Uchiha Sasuke with a glare. That is for me to know and for you to never find out, Gaki. Said the jounin. I guess losers like Naruto attract loser senseis as well. Declared Sasuke with an evil grin on his face, though the grin became a frown, then turning into fear when a bolt of lightning blasted him from his seat and hitting the wall, all the while being electrocuted thanks to the lightning that was currently attached to his chest. If I was a loser, Uchiha boya, then I shouldn't have been able to hit someone of your caliber, right? Said the jounin with a grin, holding up a finger sparkling with lightning. If you know what's good for you, then I suggest that you keep your trap shut before I do it for you. Hey. You can't do that to Sasuke-kun. Shouted Sakura but got the same treatment as her idol, blasted, thrown, and electrocuted. The jounin turned to the surviving member of Team 7 and raised an eyebrow. You have something to say to me, genin? He said ominously. The silence in the room made the crackling lightning loud in contrast. No, jounin-san. Said Sai with a creepy smile on his face. Good. Make sure you wipe that fake smile on your face before I shock it out of you. The lightning on the jounin's finger grew in intensity. Sai's smile morphed into one of fear, making the jounin chuckle before gesturing for Naruto to follow him outside the academy. Naruto was excited. This was going to be a great year for him. Hari led Naruto to the training ground nearest his home, Training Ground 42, which would become their personal space to get everything into gear. He walked at a calm pace, testing Naruto's patience if the boy could control that vaunted stamina of his. So far, the boy hadn't asked any questions but was just happy to follow him as he prodded on. When they got there, Hari beckoned for Naruto to sit on the grass, which he later followed. He pulled out the boy's file from his pocket and handed it over to the blonde. Curious, Naruto took it and gave it a glance, paling before a depressed air seemed to hover around him. "Before we go into discussions about training, I want to talk to you about that piece of paper you're holding," said Hari. "What about it?" murmured Naruto, his hands turning into fist, crumpling the paper in the process. "Nothing, but you're doing a good job of destroying it. I was planning to that myself after we talk about it, but it seems that you're one step ahead of me, so good for you," Hari said with a grin. Naruto's head snapped up to meet his sensei with a hopeful look on his face. But before he could say anything, Hari raised his hand for the boy to keep silent. "For starters, after reading that file, I already came into the conclusion that you're not well liked in the academy. Either you did all those things on the paper or you didn't, and someone has it out for you. I think you already know why they are acting like that, correct?" Naruto nodded, not saying anything, not trusting his voice at the moment. "Well, good. Anyway, my name is Mihara Hari. Starting today, you're going to start calling me Hari-sensei. Understood?" "Hi, Hari-sensei," Naruto murmured. Lips twitching, Hari slapped the boy on the side of the head, causing said boy to yelp in both surprise and pain. "I didn't hear you, Genin." "Understood." Raising his hand again for emphasis. Naruto immediately got the idea. "Hi, Hari-sensei," shouted Naruto, not wanting to get smacked on the head again. "Perfect. Since you can be taught, then teaching you everything from scratch would be easy. Now, let's discuss your training regimen. Sure, you're a genin by name only, but when it comes to skills, you're nothing but an academy student." Naruto was about to retort, but Hari beat him to it. "However, that can be easily corrected. After all, you just learned one of the best training jutsus in the elemental countries." "What technique is that, sensei?" Naruto asked curiously, though Hari could practically feel the excitement leaking from the boy's tone. "Page Bunshin," Hari said simply. "How does that help in training?" Naruto asked, confused. "What does the shadow clone have to do with training?" "I think a demonstration is in order. First, I want you to make a clone." Naruto nodded and created a single clone. "Good, perfect control of the jutsu. You're going far, kid. Now, I want you to close your eyes and command your clone to stand by that tree over there." Naruto told the clone to stand by the tree before closing his eyes. Hari waved his hand over Naruto's face and didn't see a reaction, so the boy was honest in following his orders. Looking at the clone, he flicked his hand and shot a bolt of lightning that hit the clone right in the face, causing it to explode into smoke. A few seconds later, Naruto immediately stood up from his spot and pointed at him with incredulity and disbelief on his face. "What did you do that for?" "What?" Hari asked innocently. "Hit me with that bolt of lightning from your finger. If I hit you with my technique, then you should be unconscious right now." "But I hit your clone, kid." "Then how did I know that you hit it with a lightning jutsu?" "Simple, the memory of your clone is transferred over to the creator. In other words, whatever your clone experienced, you get to experience it too. That is why I said the Kage Bunshin is the best training tool in the entire elemental countries. You can learn different subjects using your clones. Multitasking at its finest, if I do say so myself." "So what does this training involves?" asked Naruto with an excited gleam in his eyes. He didn't know the Kage Bunshin could do that. He lamented for now reading the entire entry on the jutsu in the Forbidden Scroll. He was pressed for time during that event, so he focused more in learning its schematics. "Well, Naruto, you're going to start from scratch. You're going to learn everything you should have learned in the academy. Your clones will take care of the knowledge while the real you will be undergoing physical training with me," Hari said with a glint in his eyes that scared Naruto out of his wits. "You're excited now, but when we start, you're going to curse my name to the heavens." Naruto felt a cold shiver run down his spine and almost pissed himself when he heard the most evil laugh coming from his sensei. He didn't know why, but he started praying for his safety. End of chapter 5. Chapter 6. A month of hellish training. Hari made do with his promise to the hokage of training Naruto from the ground up. He planned on training Naruto by following the methods of his tutor and training partners while he was learning the shinobi arts with a few refinement of his own to make sure that Naruto became a balanced all-around fighter. Hari wanted to avoid overspecialization at all cost. He wanted Naruto to be adaptable, yet powerful in his own right. After the explanation of the Kage Bunshin, the rest of the time before lunch was spent discussing how Naruto was trained in the academy so Hari could discern the trouble areas that he needed to focus on. When that was done, Hari immediately ran a diagnostic spell on Naruto in order to determine the state of the boy's physical health so he would know what to do and avoid during training. The result was exceptional. Hari decided to improve on the physical training regimen to really boost Naruto's physical abilities, a balance of both speed and strength, similar to his own build. The result of the diagnostic spell showed that Naruto was a very healthy boy, thanks to the healthy food Hari's elves fed the boy every day, though some potions were needed since the boy was a tad on the short side. Also, there were irregularities to the boy's muscular development that needed to be corrected. Naruto's upper body muscles were undeveloped, a testament that he didn't do much during the scheduled training spars in the academy. The blonde's lower body muscles were developed properly thanks to the impromptu races the boy had with his pursuers after each successful prank. In other words, Naruto's speed was where it should be for a genin, but his strength was nowhere near acceptable. Chakra-wise, the boy was a powerhouse with reserves that would rival a Hokage due to the potency of his chakra. This was the reason why Naruto could bring out that much shadow clones without killing himself, which shouldn't be possible, since a Hokage could only make 10 clones at most before passing out from exhaustion. Thanks to the boy's chakra potency, he wouldn't have this problem ever. Hari immediately attributed the chakra potency to Kyuubi, since Bijuus were known to be living chakra themselves, and Naruto's chakra coils adapted to the injection of Bijuu chakra since infancy. When Hari had a test spar with Naruto, the wizard-turned-shinobi couldn't help but palm his face and refrained from rushing to the academy and electrocuting the instructors there. Naruto was as graceful as a bulldozer thanks to his brawler-style taijutsu that the boy created himself due to the instructors teaching him wrong. Hari cursed the high heavens since he was really going to start from scratch. Thanks to these facts, Hari finally came up with a training program that he immediately informed the blonde. First, he needed to teach the boy to relax because a shinobi couldn't afford to be on a regular sugar high since that would result in the boy's death, especially in the battlefield. This was easily done because meditation was a mental art and the clones could easily do this while the original indulged in physically demanding activities. Second, Hari informed Naruto that while his clones were working on the mental aspect of training, he would personally train Naruto physically to achieve above average strength and speed. The evil chuckle Hari gave off after mentioning this fact scared Naruto out of his wits. Hari was channeling Anko without him noticing. Third, he needed Naruto to control his overabundant chakra reserves, since learning jutsus without proper chakra control would backfire and cause accidents ranging from the jutsu blowing up on his face or cause a large enough explosion that would level half the village. Both Hari and Naruto at the mental image that statement produced. Done with the evaluation, the next step was shopping in order to get rid of the hideous orange jumpsuit the boy was wearing. Not only was it detrimental to his life as a shinobi, it was an eyesore. It had to go much to the boy's protest. Such was the case. Hari dragged Naruto to one of his favorite shops in the village that he knew would treat the boy with respect because to the burden he carried. There, Naruto was subjected to an hour and a half of clothes shopping that made the boy cry and beg for it to end. After an emotional hour and a half later, Hari finally had Naruto kitted out in an acceptable shinobi outfit that would do for the time being. The wizard shinobi knew that the boy would come up with his own unique clothing style once he got rid of the immature side in the blonde. For a stamina freak like Naruto, clothes shopping was torture. In the end, Naruto walked out of the clothing shop decked in black cargo pants with multiple pockets, a blue muscle shirt that showed off his physique, and an orange Uzumaki swirl adorning the back. Hari had to agree to that little orange in the outfit to get the boy to shut up. Naruto decided to wear his hit I-8 on his forehead, for now. To complete the uniform, Naruto chose to opt for a pair of boots instead of the usual sandals, which according to the boy was cooler and more comfortable. Hari couldn't help but agree since sandals made your toes visible to your enemies who could easily cut them off. The prospect that Hari didn't want happening to him. And by extension, Naruto. When Hari asked Naruto how it felt to have brand new clothes, the boy answered that it was great. After a brief mind probe, the wizard shinobi found out that Naruto chose to wear the orange monstrosity of a jumpsuit since that was the only thing he could afford. He wore it every day for 4 years to the point that he begun to like it, even the color. Hari was happy that Naruto adapted not because he wanted to, it was because he was forced to. He knew right there and then that the boy would be able to survive his training method. Since they had plenty of time to spare, Hari brought Naruto to a shinobi-only shop and had the boy kitted out on the necessities, ranging from shurikens to ninja ropes, as well as reinforced pouch and holsters for his weapons. The boy asked him why he was paying for everything. Hari smoothly answered that question by telling the boy that the cost of his outfit was already covered because he got paid from apprehending Mizuki and protected the Forbidden Scroll. It was a lie of course, but it worked on such short notice. He made a mental note to tell the Hokage this alibi just in case the blonde decided to ask the old man. Naruto was in hell, literally and metaphorically. His new sensei immediately jumped into the hubbub of training him from scratch in the second day of their meeting. Despite the fact that training was brutal, he wouldn't want it any other way. First, he was given a set of chakra weights to improve his strength and speed. It should have been tolerable, but his sensei started him off at 50 pounds each, totaling to 200 pounds on top of his body weight. He had him run laps and do muscle building exercise from morning till noon, while his 100 clones were given various tasks to improve his mental capabilities. His vaunted stamina was put to the test and even found lacking, much to his chagrin. He had to push himself to the limit since his sadistic sensei kept launching lightning bolts in his direction every time he slowed down. After being electrocuted a few times, he learned his lesson and persevered. Speaking of his clones, they were divided into 3 groups of 50, 25, and 25. He could have easily made more, but his sensei was adamant to stick to 100 clones to avoid damaging his brain. The first 50 clones were tasked to meditate. When he asked his sensei why such a number, he was told that the number of clones would speed up his learning of the mental arts faster. He couldn't deny that because when he dispelled these clones by the end of the day, he felt calmer and able to focus easily compared to his previous countenance. He was still hyperactive, but he can somewhat control it now. It was slow, but he'll get there soon enough thanks to his clones. The second group, consisting of 25 clones, was given the task to do the tree walking exercise to help him control his chakra. Naruto was annoyed because his sensei kept laughing when his clones were blown off the tree because of channeling too much chakra for the exercise. At the end of the day, after dispelling this group, he was able to make it up halfway up the tree no problem, though he needed to reach the top and try to maintain the tree walking exercise without stepping on the ground for 2 hours before his sensei deemed him proficient. His sensei informed him that he would be deemed a master of tree walking if he could fight while sticking for 2 hours non-stop. It cemented the belief that his sensei was a sadistic bastard. He didn't voice it out loud though, since he wanted to avoid those lightning bolts of his. The third group, composed of the last 25 clones, was given various books for them to read, ranging from history to mathematics. And from chakra to elemental affinity, basic books on general education and shinobi arts. He was wrong when he first thought that his sensei was joking and teaching him everything he should have learned in the academy. He shouldn't have doubted the guy, much to his chagrin. When one of his clones complained that it didn't want to read, it was promptly zapped by a barrage of lightning that left a crater where the clone stood. Needless to say, no one complained after that. In order to give Naruto the time to assimilate the information, he was given a day off after a day's use of clones so he could adapt to the large amount of information crammed into his brain. Of course, Naruto demanded that he could do it every day, but shut up and relented. His sensei informed him that he was a professional medic nin, and doing the shadow clone training program every day would turn his brain into mush and end up a vegetable residing in the hospital. The only saving grace to that command was giving him the use of a single clone during rest days if he ever needed one to do something outside training. When he asked when they were going to start doing missions, his sensei just informed him to wait for the right moment since he needed to catch up to his peers in terms of shinobi knowledge. Naruto didn't complain because his sensei punctuated his point by raising a hand, cackling with lightning when he was about to open his mouth to complain. The day without clones were focused on a day of Taijutsu where Hari taught Naruto Tai Kai. However, Naruto found the style to be too soft for his taste since he was, more or less, a frontline fighter. Since strength and eventually, speed was his forte. His sensei introduced him to a style called Kung Fu, an esoteric martial arts that mimic the style of animals to produce unique fighting moves. With the use of 5 shadow clones, with blessings from his sensei of course, he read the books that his sensei offered on Kung Fu and eventually decided to learn the tiger style since he found the direct strength attacks to his liking while having enough defensive moves to keep him alive in a taijutsu fight. A group of clones was allocated to learning the various katas while he physically trained under his sensei's watchful eye and the lightning finger of torture and doom. This leg of the training continued for a month until his sensei informed him of revisions to their daily schedule. Alright, Naruto-kun, because of your month-long training in the physical arts, as well as passing the proficiency test I gave you in terms of shinobi knowledge, we are going to revise your schedule to incorporate something new. Hari began as he stood in front of his apprentice. Hi, sensei. Replied Naruto, making Hari proud that his charge was learning to relax and focus instead of jumping around like a kid on sugar high. Good, the schedule will be as follows. For Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we will be going to continue with your physical regime since you need more speed and strength for your tiger style. This means full sprint around the training field for 2 hours and another 2 hours for muscle training. Afternoon will be spent sparring using clones. We will alternate between ground spar and tree spar to add to your experience and chakra control. Understood? Hi, sensei. Naruto replied with a nod. This time, there was a hint of a smile on his face. The boy was definitely a glutton for punishment, which Hari definitely liked. So since I'm going to be sparring with clones, does this mean that this will incorporate a form of teamwork exercise? You're correct and very good in catching that one. Praised Hari, which made Naruto grin. To continue, the morning of Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays will be spent doing D-rank mission. However, we are going to do it with a little bit of twist. Instead of you personally going on missions, you will assign a group of clones to do it for you. During those days, you will create 15 clones, 3 for each team. Each team will grab their mission from the missions office. I already cleared this with the hokage. I won't be supervising your D ranks, so I want you to make use of what you learned from the books to properly make a report. Understand? Hi, sensei. Naruto agreed before realizing something. Oh no, am I going to overpower the clones, since it would be possible that they might encounter something during missions that would cause them to dispel. Very good, boy. You're going to do just that. I think you already have enough control over your chakra to properly distribute the chakra to your clones equally. Hari asked with a raised eyebrow. He learned during the first month that overpowering a clone allowed it to withstand a few hits before dispelling. Yes, sensei, though I want to ask you if you could check on them just in case so I can correct errors if there is one. Naruto pointed out. My chakra control may have improved, but it isn't to your level yet, though I kinda doubt if I could reach your level considering what you told me about my chakra before training. No problem and thanks for the suggestion. I will do just that. Hari said with a nod, pride clearly in his eyes. Now, while your clones are doing missions, you and I will continue with physical training. However, I will introduce to you a chakra control exercise called water walking. However, instead of 25 clones, I want you to only use 5 clones. I don't want you becoming too dependent on them. Besides, I want you to slow down in using your clones since I don't want to damage your brain. Sunday is a rest day, same as usual. Understood. Naruto nodded, already memorizing the new schedule and itching to try it out. Hari was currently in the shinobi section of the Mahara clan library, eyeing the 7 large scrolls in front of him. These were no ordinary scrolls. These were summoning contracts for different animals that he collected over the years. 2 of them he got from the shinobis he fought and gifted it to him as payment for sparing their lives, while the rest were thanks to the tireless efforts of his elves, scouring the elemental nation for such contracts. Ever since he learned of the monkey summoning contract that the hokage possessed, the hokage was smug that Hari didn't have a contract, so the Mahara clan head vowed to prove him wrong, which he eventually did. The contracts he had were bear, tiger, wolf, hawk, cats, crow, and falcon. The reason why Hari was eyeing the scroll was due to his plan to give Naruto a gift after surviving his second month of hell training, as the blonde dubbed it. He was quite proud of his student since the boy became a totally new person under his tutelage. Another reason for giving the boy a contract was to offset the lack of teammates. Despite the fact that he had the ability to create hundreds, if not thousands, of shadow clones with his potent chakra, they wouldn't be able to survive a prolonged battle, and their skills were similar to the original, so enemies could still predict what they would do. But the summoning partner, Naruto could incorporate a variety of team-based strategies for both offense and defense with ease. If Hari was honest with himself, despite that this was his first time to teach a student, he was quite proud of the blonde. He knew that Naruto was just a temporary apprentice, since the boy's real master would be continuing the boy's training soon, according to the hokage. Also, Hari discovered that he was quite fond of teaching. If he didn't leave Wizarding Britain and got labeled as a Dark Lord, he would have taught Dada at Hogwarts. He amended that if Britain didn't do what they did, he wouldn't have found a home in the elemental nation. All in all, it worked out perfectly with him finally coming out on top. In just a span of 2 months, the old hyperactive, loud-mouthed, stamina freak Uzumaki Naruto was replaced by a calm, focused, and smart Uzumaki Naruto that was well on his way to become a fine shinobi. In terms of strength and ability, Hari ranked Naruto as mid-chunin, but if you couple his lack of experience into the mix, he was only mid-genin at best. Nothing a few C-rank missions couldn't fix, which he would be taking soon, and let Naruto handle the job with him acting as a guide. Back to the topic, he was eyeing the summoning contracts in front of him and contemplating what to give to the boy. At first, he decided to give Naruto the tiger summoning contract since it would fit well with his taijutsu style and minsid. Another potential contract for the boy was the bear summoning contract, which he already signed as his own. He didn't bring them out that much since there were not support-type summons who preferred to bulldoze their way through their opponents using fangs, claws, and brute strength. In Hari's case, he didn't bring them out as of yet due to the lack of opponents that could give him a challenge. Despite the lack of activity in his reality, he rather liked the bear's silent, down-to-earth, and very practical, not to mention good conversationalist. When angered, they were monsters in their own rights, with the boss towering over the Hokage mountain with ease. He summoned him once, and he was practically scared out of his wits when he saw the size of the claws and fangs the boss of the bear clan possessed. In the case of animal summons, bigger was definitely better. He shuddered when he remembered those razor-sharp teeth that could easily dice him to chunks in one bite. Unable to decide which animal was which, Hari finally came into the conclusion to just let the boy pick for himself. He made a mental note to bring the boy to his clan compound later if time permits. Aside from the contract, certain truths needed to come out, and this was the perfect time to air them out. Uzumaki Naruto was currently in his home, relaxing since it was a Sunday, and there was no training on a Sunday. As he lounged around in his comfortable sofa, he couldn't help but think back on the changes that happened to him ever since he became an apprentice of Mihara Hari, a person that Naruto looked up to like a surrogate parent or something similar to a brother. Naruto couldn't believe how his sensei changed him for the better. Heck, he couldn't believe that he changed. Period. Before, he resigned himself to be a mediocre shinobi because he had to do everything on his own after noticing that the academy instructors, except for Iruka sensei, wasn't giving him the time of day. In fact, all of his skills were all self-taught. The only thing that he could be proud of was his large chakra reserves and stamina. Then Hari sensei came into the scene. He was depressed at first when his cool Jounin sensei showed him his academy record but was surprised when his sensei all but said to ignore it. Instead of leaving him to improve on his own, expecting only a few advice to guide him in the right direction, his sensei personally took a hand in his training and made use of his strength to turn him into a person that he was today. Naruto visibly winced when he remembered his first month of training. It was brutal, to say the least. The chakra weights were a big hurdle to overcome, but overcome it he did because he didn't want to get electrocuted by his trigger-happy sensei, who was just too attached to those lightning jutsus of his. Besides, because of the advanced healing factor his body had in spades, hard training would help him improve faster than taking it slow. Naruto couldn't deny that his sensei was right in all aspects of his training. He never steered him wrong, and Naruto liked him that way. He might be brutal to the point of being sadistic, which he was, but he was honest to a fault. Aside from the physical side of training, his sensei also took the time to teach him meditation to help calm him down and control his natural sugar high, thanks to his vaunted stamina. Guide him to learn the things that he should have learned in the academy and of course, help him control his above-average chakra reserves. He liked his sensei because Hari never sugar-coated anything. If Hari sensei found something wrong then he would point it out with lightning bolts added into the mix to drill it home and help him correct it. Hari sensei was honest and didn't like to play around with words. In fact, his sensei even mentioned his tenant and his sensei wasn't even bothered by it, as if treating the biju he contained a fly that needed to be ignored. Thanks to the improvement on his academic skills, he made a special point to branch out to other shinobi arts during his free time. He used a disguised clone, just once since his sensei allowed him, to study in the library and scope out some jutsus that would be useful in the field. His sensei tested him once and found out that he had an affinity for wind techniques, so he scoured the Konoha library for wind jutsus. He didn't find much, only two that he could actually use, since Konoha shinobis predominantly had fire affinity. He made a mental note to ask his sensei if he had some wind techniques in the library he mentioned a few weeks back. He was brought out of his musings when a familiar red avian appeared in his living room in a burst of fire, a beautiful song filling the room. "Welcome to my home, Fox." Naruto greeted his visitor warmly. He was introduced to the bird during his first month of training and couldn't help but be amazed at his sensei's familiar. Not only was the bird beautiful, Fox was talented as well, tears that could heal any wounds or poison, able to teleport anywhere, and carry heavy burdens with ease. "What can I do for you?" Fox drifted down and perched on Naruto's shoulder and dropped a rolled up paper he was carrying with his beak on Naruto's lap. Curious, Naruto opened it and saw that it was a letter from his sensei. "Naruto. I want you to go with Fox and come to my home. There are a few things we need to discuss regarding the future of our team and apprenticeship. Mihara Hari." Naruto looked up and nodded at Fox, who trilled in happiness before disappearing from the room along with his blonde passenger. Naruto's sight cleared to see himself standing in a beautiful living room. He didn't know where he was, but he had this feeling that he was currently inside his sensei's home. A fact proven immediately when his sensei appeared in front of him accompanied by a soft crack. Naruto stared at his sensei in disbelief since he knew that it wasn't Shunshin or any speed technique he knew. "Welcome to the Mihara clan compound, Naruto-kun," greeted Hari before sitting himself on the sofa and gesturing for Naruto to do the same. Seeing that his student was making himself comfortable, he decided to open up the day's discussion. "Thanks for coming on such short notice even though it's your day off, but there are some things we need to talk about that would affect our future relationship as student and teacher." "What do you mean, sensei?" Naruto asked in confusion. I know everything about you, Naruto, from your childhood to that furball you're carrying in that stomach of yours. However, you don't know anything about me. I want you to halt all your questions and listen to everything I have to say. When I'm done, you can ask me anything, alright? Seeing Naruto nod in agreement, Hari immediately launched into his tale. Similar to the ones he gave the Hokage. He also explained about his bloodline, magic, causing the boy to look at him excitedly, though it disappeared a bit when Hari mentioned that he didn't have the ability to use magic. It was an hour later that a dumbfounded Naruto was looking at his sensei in a new light. Wait, you're telling me that you're the one who treated me when I was young? Asked Naruto in disbelief and saw Hari nod. How come I didn't remember you? Simple, using my magic, I blocked the memory of all our interaction together. It was necessary at that time since I didn't want you to look at me as nothing more than a sensei. I want you to grow into your emotions slowly as you continue to grow as a shinobi. It is normal for a person to have a different outlook when they are with someone familiar. I want to see and experience the real you before I unblock you memories. Can you return those memories to me now? Naruto asked excitedly. Hari nodded, pointed his finger at Naruto. A beam of white light flew from it and connected to Naruto's forehead. Naruto's eyes glazed a bit, a clear sign that he was processing the memories that made itself known inside the boy's mind before realization dawned on his face. Whoa, what a rush. Said Naruto before shaking his head. You were the one who treated me when none in the hospital would give me the time of day. Thank you, Hari-sensei. Hari smiled at his charge. No problem, kid. It was a pleasure. Ever since I knew of your burden, I didn't hate you. In fact, I made sure that I implemented certain measures to make sure that you're healthy, safe, and comfortable. Something clicked in Naruto's mind before leveling his sensei an accusing finger. Wait a minute. Everything was because of you. When I disappeared after being cornered by the mob, no mobs attacking my home, the food appearing out of nowhere, the changes in my home, and in my ramen. Naruto screamed the last part, making Hari burst out in laughter at the indignant look on the blonde's face. Yes, I did do all those things, boy. Said Hari as he hit Naruto with a calming charm to the effect that it calmed the boy. Seeing the confused look on the blonde's face, he decided to explain. I hit you with a spell that helps you relax. Anyway, I did all those things for a reason, Naruto. Since I couldn't adopt you because of the civilian council, I made sure to take steps to do the next best thing. Take care of you from afar. I charmed all your clothes so that you would be brought to the safety of your home if you feel extreme fear and panic. I warded your home so that no one with ill intent towards you can enter. I had one of my house elves make sure that you're eating healthy so you won't grow stunted because of eating nothing but ramen due to the villagers hindering you from buying anything else. And most importantly, I changed all your furniture to make sure that you have a comfortable time living there. But why do all of those things, sensei? Naruto asked with a confused frown on his face. He didn't know why his sensei was doing all of this for him. Sure, his sensei was kind, a bit sadistic, but a kind-hearted person, but this was simply too much for an orphan like him. Simple, I experienced the same thing. Hari said simply, a look of disbelief crossed Naruto's face. You see, Naruto, in my world. There are certain people who are afraid of magic. One of these people was my relatives. When my parents died and I became an orphan, I was placed with my relatives since no one can take care of me at that time. They feared me, afraid what I would become, so I was treated like a slave, beaten up, and abused. Their life is so similar to mine that it was scary, forced to live a life of squalor and pain because of circumstances out of our control. I don't want to see anyone suffer as I did, so I helped you. Naruto was silent as he digested his sensei's words, tears slowly forming in his eyes. Cannot help the raging emotions he was feeling, he launched himself and engulfed Hari in a tight hug who returned it. Naruto cried while mumbling thank you over and over again, with Hari simply patting the boy on the back to soothe his emotions. A few minutes later, Naruto was in control of his emotions that he shyly pushed himself away from his sensei and went back to his seat. Sorry about that, sensei. I don't know what came over me. Naruto apologized with a shy grin on his face. Hari waved his hand dismissively. Don't worry about it. I certainly understand what you're going through. Said Hari before grinning. Anyway, I came here today for two reasons. One is to discuss some facts about future missions we will be getting. And two, give you a few gifts to help you become a powerful shinobi of Konoha. Naruto was excited when he heard that his sensei was going to give him gifts. He grinned but stayed silent since he knew that his sensei was going to tell him something concerning missions. He was getting tired of doing nothing but D ranks, even though this resulted in his savings growing, that he wouldn't have to worry about buying the things he wanted with some extras for necessities. However, he wanted something more fulfilling to do aside from chores. He was a shinobi after all. In terms of missions, according to the report I got from the missions office, you have a total of 75 D ranks under your belt, more than any genin could ever accomplish in a span of 2 months, and you did it alone. A worthy feat, Naruto boy, if I do say so myself. Hari saw Naruto puff out his chest in pride and couldn't help but grin at the boy. Since you have plenty of D ranks under your belt, we are going to start doing C rank mission. This is why I chose to give you 2 gifts. Hari waved his hand at the table in between them, causing 8 scrolls to appear, 7 large scrolls and a small one. Naruto eyed them speculatively, a curious frown on his face. What are these scrolls, sensei? Your first gift is the small scroll, said Hari as he beckoned for Naruto to take it, which the blonde did. That scroll contains the instruction for a supplementary technique called Shunshin no Jutsu. I think you already know what this technique can do, right? Naruto nodded eagerly and was about to open the scroll and start reading when Hari stopped him. Make 5 clones and give the scroll to them. Order them to go outside and train with that skill. I expect for you to master Shunshin in 2 hours. Understood? Hari commanded in a voice that Naruto dubbed as sadistic sensei mode. Hi, sensei. Barked Naruto before creating 5 clones without having to do hand seals. He had complete control of his chakra to a point that he could do some jutsus without hand seals, and practicing with the Kage Bunshin all the time made it possible to use the technique without having to do the necessary seal. He tossed the Shunshin scroll to one of the clones. Alright, I want you to go outside and learn Shunshin. One of you dispel if you need more clones or when you're done with it. Perfect it to the point that we won't be needed seals to use them. Hi, Taichu. Shouted the clones before running out of the living room, eagerness and excitement on their faces. Hari watched the clones in amusement for a few seconds before turning to Naruto, who was looking at the 7 large scrolls with obvious interest. The reason I want you to learn Shunshin is to simplify travel time and to have an escape skill to fall back on instead of using replacement jutsu all the time. It is time consuming to walk or run around the village to get to our destination, so between your Shunshin and my unique form of transportation, we can go places easier and faster. Hari saw Naruto nod at his reasoning. Now, these 7 scrolls are called summoning contracts. Hari ignored the shocked look on the boy's face. I got these contracts from enemy shinobis and having my house elves track them down for me around the elemental nation. So far, I have these under my disposal, though I might be able to acquire more in the future if my elves can find them. According to their size, these are the master scrolls for the summoning animal they are attributed to. Now, the contracts are tiger, bear, falcon, hawk, cat, crow, and wolf. I want you to pick a contract and sign it. Which contract did you sign, sensei? Naruto asked curiously as he eyed the scrolls speculatively. Hari could see that the boy was running scenarios in that head of his and already envisioning the strengths and weaknesses of each animal. Bear. Hari answered with a grin. I picked the animal that fit well with my personality. Bears are lazy animals, laid back and very protective. However, they become monsters to their enemies when cornered or annoyed. You forgot sadistic. Murmured Naruto, which Hari clearly heard. You said something, boy. Hari asked with an evil glint in his eyes. Naruto backpedaled and gave his sensei a nervous grin. Nothing, sensei. I said that bears suit you perfectly. He said before gulping nervously. I thought so. Hari nodded with a pleased grin on his face. So, any idea what animal you want? Naruto grew thoughtful for a bit before answering. Well, I'm partial to the tigers. Bears aren't that bad since they are strength types like me, though I prefer tigers since I am familiar with their attack styles. Crows are scary, and I don't really like hawks and falcons that much, though I can never deny the fact that having aerial support would be advantageous. Wolves are similar to tigers in a way, and they are pack animals. So if you ask me, I would say tigers or wolves. I'll forgo bears since you already signed it, and it would be best to have 2 different summoning animals between the 2 of us, in case we need diversity. Very well thought out, Naruto. Hari said with pride in his eyes that made Naruto happy for the praise. Your reasoning is sound, and I agree that tigers or wolves would suit you best. If you ask my advice, I suggest tigers since your style gives you an affinity towards them. Naruto nodded. I agree, sensei. So how do I summon? He asked eagerly. Hari nodded and waved his hand towards the scroll on the desk, causing 6 of them to disappear back to his library, leaving only the tiger scroll. I want you to open the scroll, sign your name using your blood as ink. Using your hand that you want to use to summon the tigers, place blood on your fingertips and stamp it down below your name. Once done, let's go to my training ground out back and I'll teach you to summon. It didn't take long for Naruto to finish signing the contract. The 2 relaxed for a bit, talking, while enjoying the snacks provided by the elves, which Naruto found fascinating. Hari gave Naruto a free pass to come and take advantage of his library when the blonde asked if he had any wind scroll to learn from. Hari allowed him entrance, but only to the shinobi section, and warned Naruto that he warded the magical section that would shock anyone entering there without his permission. Naruto took the hint immediately since he knew of his sensei's penchant towards lightning. End of chapter 6. What if Hokage Naruto goes to study in Hogwarts? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.